Chapter 255. Evil retribution for evil. The things left behind by the bone messenger were all treasures, but Yi Fei had chosen the most useless space bag. This made Lin Sun and Zhao Yu feel a little strange. Yang Xiao was the first to react. He pointed at the interspatial bag in front of him and said, "Junior brother Yi, you're eyeing the large capacity of this interspatial bag, right?" "That's right. I have a lot of things on me. It's better to have a bigger space bag." Yi Fei nodded. Space bags might look ordinary, but there were many different grades inside. White and black interspatial bags were the lowest grade. There were silver interspatial bags and golden interspatial bags above them. Some martial arts experts might as well open up their own storage space. Coincidentally, Yi Fei felt that the space in his interspatial bag was still too small. It would be best if he could get a better interspatial bag. Lin Sun and Zhao Yu felt relieved. Seeing that Yi Fei had already made his choice, Yang Xiao didn't stand on ceremony and stared at the three treasures for a long time. Finally, Yang Xiao picked up the Devil Dao martial skill book, and his eyes lit up. It's actually the Heavenly Een cult's famous bone devil Profound Een Thorn. This is great. If I comprehend this martial skill, I might be able to create a new archery skill. Self-created archery? Yi Fei looked at Yang Xiao in surprise. If it was someone else who said this, he would have laughed it off. But since it was Yang Xiao who said this, then he would definitely be able to do it. After all, those who could enter the top 10 of the intersect were all absolute monsters. In fact, with Yi Fei's current realm and knowledge of martial arts, he also had the ability to create his own martial arts. However, what Yi Fei had mastered was either the Devil Emperor's Sutra or the Annihilation Sword. Even if he really created his own martial arts, its power would be incomparable. Therefore, he didn't want to waste his time. This bone devil spike is not bad. It's actually a dragon bone. I'll take it. Seeing that Yang Xiao had already made her choice, Lin Sun walked up and chose the bone devil spike that he had long since taken a fancy to. This was the weapon that the bone envoy had used when he was alive. Needless to say, it was powerful. What was even more precious was that it was a subdragon bone. It was definitely the best material for forging weapons. Since none of you want this spiritual medicine, then I'll take it. Zhao Yu finally picked up the white jade box and gently opened it. Boom! The astonishing spiritual energy actually formed a spiritual energy flower in the air that slowly bloomed. Clearly, this spiritual medicine was the most precious treasure on the bone envoy's body. Unfortunately, Lin Sun and Yang Xiao had misjudged him. Zhao Yu was even more shocked as he looked at the spiritual medicine in his hand. His eyes revealed a hint of surprise and hesitation. "No, this spiritual medicine is too precious. Which one of you wants to trade with me?" Zhao Yu once again pushed the jade box towards Lin Sun and Yang Xiao. Although his eyes revealed a strong reluctance and regret, Zhao Yu had no intention of taking it for himself. After all, she did not help much in the battle against the bone messenger. Of course, Zhao Yu would be embarrassed to take away the most precious treasure here. Yang Xiao and Lin Sun were very satisfied with Zhao Yu's nonchalant attitude. Yang Xiao said, "Since we made a mistake, it means that this treasure is destined to be with Junior Sister. I won't get involved. If Junior Sister feels apologetic, remember to introduce me to a few Junior Sisters in the future." Get lost. Lin Sun was very rude. He dragged Yang Xiao to the side and kicked her. Yi Fei and Zhao Yu both broke out in a cold sweat at the same time. Since Lin Sun and Yang Xiao did not want it, Zhao Yu could only awkwardly hand the spiritual medicine to Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, let's trade." "No, Zhao Yu, you should take it." Yi Fei hurriedly shook his head. He noticed the strong surprise in Zhao Yu's eyes when he saw the spiritual medicine. He did not need to guess to know that this spiritual medicine should be very helpful to Zhao Yu. Since that was the case, Yi Fei naturally would not snatch the spiritual medicine. He quickly pushed the spiritual medicine to Zhao Yu. However, in the process of declining, Yi Fei's hand inevitably touched Zhao Yu's hand. Yi Fei did not notice anything wrong. Zhao Yu was stunned. Then she glared fiercely at Yi Fei. Her sparkling ears were slightly red. She quickly distanced herself 5 meters away from Yi Fei with a look of disdain. Yi Fei wanted to vomit blood. He felt that these princesses were really hard to please. However, after this incident, Zhao Yu was too embarrassed to continue declining. He just silently put away the jade box in his hand. At this time, Lin's son dragged Yang Xiao back. Zhao Yu also walked over. Since the treasures had been divided, it was naturally the most important part of the process. The distribution of the heaven-level jade blood pills. We'll divide these jade blood pills equally. Do you have any objections? Yifei looked at the three of them. After confirming that Yang Xiao, Lin's son, and Zhao Yu did not have any objections, he opened the pouch full of jade blood pills and began to distribute them. If he did not open it, he would not have known that there were 173 jade blood pills in the pouch. Even if the four of them each received 40 heaven-level pills, it would still be a lot less. It was still not easy to distribute the remaining 13 pills. Lin's son and Yang Xiao both felt troubled. Yifei thought about it and looked at the disciples who were still cleaning up the encampment. He had an idea. Senior brothers, we were able to kill the bone envoy this time. Although these people did not contribute, they persevered until the end. Why don't we reward them with the remaining pills? I have no problem with that. They stay behind. Even if they did not do their best, they did their best. Yang Xiao nodded. Agreed. Lin Sen's words were still as cold as ever. I have no objections. Zhao Yu also expressed his agreement. Since the three of them agreed, Yifei called the disciples who were still busy and gave them the remaining 13 heaven-level jade blood pills. As for how they distributed them, that was their own business. Yifei's heroic act also deeply shocked the disciples who were still in the encampment. They never thought that they would be able to obtain such great benefits by staying in the encampment just because of their conscience. A total of 13 heaven-level jade blood pills. This was definitely a great deal. The disciples at the scene cheered sincerely for Yifei and the other three who were willing to give up the pills. Thank you, Senior Brother Yi. Thank you, Senior Brother Lin, Senior Brother Yang, Senior Sister Zhao. Long live the senior brothers and sisters. The disciples at the scene cheered joyfully. They had never felt the unity of the sacred area like this before. As for Depang, who was still lying on the ground like a pile of mud, his eyes were red with regret. The great loss of blood had caused this fat elder's face to turn pale and his lips to turn purple. If no one was willing to save him, this 10th-layer martial ancestor realm outer elder would have to die here. Depang was extremely unwilling to accept this. He had yet to use the wealth he had obtained over the years. He still had a lot of wealth to enjoy. He did not want to die and could not die. Save me, junior brothers and junior sisters. I know I was wrong. Please save me. I'm willing to give each of you 10,000. No, 30,000 merit points as an apology. Pangda forced the words out of his mouth, almost as if he were trying to suppress the pain in his heart. Bang! The disciples at the scene were stunned. 30,000 contribution points for each of them, which would be 120,000 contribution points for four of them. It would take an inner disciple 10 years to earn so many contribution points. However, this Depang was able to earn so many contribution points without doing anything. Yang Xiao and Lin Sun were infuriated. Zhao Yu's eyes flickered with anger too. Yifei smacked his lips in astonishment. This fat elder really knows how to take advantage of others. However, Yifei did not waver. The disciples at the scene did not waver either. We're going back to the sacred area. Yifei, Zhao Yu, what about you? Lin's son calmly asked. We'll go together. Yifei and Zhao Yu exchanged glances with one another and smiled. Senior brothers and sisters, wait for us. We'll go too. The other inner disciples responded. Depang was the only one left, lying on the ground with a face full of despair and regret. No one cared about him, even though he had offered an astronomical amount of contribution points. However, no one was willing to spare him a glance. He had brought this upon himself. If he had not been so black-hearted as to take advantage of those ordinary disciples who had come to train, if he had not been so cowardly and acted like an elder to protect everyone, unfortunately, there were no more ifs. Depang could clearly feel his life force rapidly depleting. Tears of incomparable regret rolled down from his eyes like a broken dam. I regret it. I hate it. Why? Why did I become like this? No, it's not my fault. It's not my fault at all. I didn't do anything wrong. It's all of you who are at fault. All of you who left me in the lurch. You're so ruthless. Yifei, you're so ruthless. All I did was follow the orders of the higher-ups to frame you once. You actually want to kill me. Sob, sob, sob. Chapter 256. Return to the Holy Land. Fearful Mamba did not know that he had accidentally revealed a secret buried in his heart. This secret was nothing to others. But to Yifei, it was like a sudden clap of thunder. When Yifei heard Yang Xiao say that the 7-star flower mission was worth at most 10,000 contribution points and not 20,000 contribution points, he felt that there might be a problem with this mission. Now that he heard Pang to say something like this, Yifei's heart skipped a beat. He immediately walked back and looked at Pangda with a sullen face. Pangda, what do you know? Tell me everything you know. No, I can't say it. If I say it, I'll die. Pang finally realized that he had said something that he shouldn't have. If you don't tell me now, you'll still die, Yifei said coldly. Hesitation flashed across his huge face. Then, he looked at Yifei anxiously and said, Save me. As long as you are willing to save me, I will tell you everything I know. Save you? Yifei seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He looked at Pangda emotionlessly and said, You want me to save you? Sure. I remember that when I came here, there were 2 outer sect disciples who were sent away. Where are they now? An outer sect disciple? Is there such a person in the encampment? When I came here, I didn't see such a person at all. Zhao found it very strange. However, some of the inner disciples who came here often had some impression of the 2 outer disciples and started to talk about them. Speaking of which, there are 2 outer sect disciples in the encampment. They are specially sent here by the Holy Land to serve the elders. Now that you mention it, I remember that there are 2 such people. Strange, why didn't we see them when we were at the encampment? Shua. In the end, all eyes were focused on Pangda. Those who could enter the inner sect were all elites. None of them were fools. The sudden disappearance of 2 good outer sect disciples definitely had something to do with Pang. Yifei also stared coldly at Pangda's face was covered in cold sweat. Tears and snot flowed down his chin. He didn't dare to move his lips. In fact, after Pangda had framed Yifei and purposely sent Yifei into the depths of 7 Treasures Forest to die, Pangda had used poison pills to poison them to death. Their corpses had turned into pools of blood. How could Pangda have the guts to say such a thing? But even if he didn't mention it, Yifei could roughly guess the outcome of the 2 outer sect disciples. Elder, you're good. I hope you can still be mighty in hell. Yifei coldly turned around and was about to leave. No, Yifei, you can't leave. Don't you want to know who's trying to frame you? Save me, and I'll tell you. Pangda shouted in despair. He had only killed 2 outer sect disciples. Why? Why did they treat him like this? Why did they treat him, a martial ancestor realm, 10th realm elder? Seeing that Pangda was still unrepentant, Yifei couldn't help but sigh. Pangda, you won't understand. People like you will never understand. No matter how lowly a person was, there was a side that couldn't be ignored. Unfortunately, he would never see this side of a despicable person like Pangda. Even if he saw it, these people would turn a blind eye to it. Yifei turned around and left. He didn't want to say another word to Pangda. Such an unrepentant person who pretended to be superior would never understand the suffering of others. Seeing Yifei's actions, Lin's son, Yang Xiao, and Zhao Yu stopped talking. None of the disciples present looked at Pangda again. Everyone turned around and left resolutely. They left with peace of mind. Pangda was left alone on the ground, moaning in pain and despair. No! Pangda used the last of his strength to shout. His voice was filled with despair and gloom. He was scared and terrified. He knew that everyone present was led by Yifei. As long as Yifei didn't agree to save him, no one would save him. What was laughable was that he actually wanted to negotiate with Yifei. For the first time, Pangda felt that his little cleverness was a foolish act in front of Yifei. Therefore, Pangda compromised. He didn't make any more demands. He just roared with resentment. Yifei, it was Ma Zai. Ma Zai ordered me to frame you. If you want revenge, you could go find him. Pangda finally revealed the secret. After being a despicable person all his life, Pang Da suddenly did a good deed for free. A strange expression appeared on his face. Ma Zai? Who is he? Why do you want to frame me? Yifei stopped in his tracks. He looked at Pang Da and asked in confusion. Pang Da shook his head. I don't know. I'm going to die soon. I have no reason to lie to you. Nodding, Yifei looked deeply at Pang Da. He suddenly made a decision and said in a low voice, You have helped me. I can promise to save you. Seeing Pang Da's happy expression, Yifei said coldly, However, I want you to cripple your dantian and meridians. This is the only way to prevent despicable people like you from continuing to do evil. Are you willing? What? You want to destroy my dantian and meridians? Pang Da was incomparably shocked. For a martial artist, having their dantian and meridians destroyed was worse than being killed. Yifei had also experienced the dark days of having his dantian destroyed. He understood that kind of pain. However, that was the bottom line for a despicable person like Pang Da to survive. Pang Da had no choice. He couldn't refuse. He wasn't a pure martial artist. He was just a despicable person who was afraid of death. As long as he could live, he was willing to give up everything. I beg you, don't destroy my meridians. Without my dantian, I can still be a strong, ordinary person. I can protect myself among mortals. If my meridians are destroyed, I will be completely crippled. I won't even be able to protect myself. Pang Da looked pitifully at Yifei and begged, I beg you. As long as you agree, I can give you all my contribution points. Yifei stared coldly at Pang Da for a while. Of course, he understood why Pang Da was doing this. This person probably still had some hope that he could repair his dantian in the future and return to martial arts. However, Yifei didn't refuse. After all, Pang Da had more than 100,000 contribution points. It would be a waste not to take them. Yifei also believed that with his strength, even if Pang Da recovered in the future, he wouldn't have to worry about this person. This was because by then, his growth would be something that this person could only look up to. All right, I promise you. Yifei didn't say anything else. He pressed his palm directly on Pang Da's back, which was missing a piece of his spine. Then he separated a bit of the undying sword soul's black energy and poured it into Pang Da's body. This was also the first time that Yifei had used the undying sword soul's black energy to help others instead of healing himself. However, the effect was very shocking. Even though it was only a bit, the black energy was able to heal Pang Da's spine at a speed visible to the naked eye. This result shocked Pang Da. Then, he looked at Yifei with a gaze full of fear. This method in itself showed how terrifying Yifei's potential was. What was laughable was that Pang Da had actually schemed against such a monster. After regaining his ability to move, Pang Da didn't rush to consume any healing elixirs. Instead, with a face full of pain, he suddenly smashed his own dantian with his palm and crippled all his cultivation. Then, Pang Da endured the pain and took out a token and handed it to Yifei. Junior brother Yi, thank you for not killing me. This is all the contribution points that I've collected over the past decade. There's a total of 200,000 contribution points. I know that all of you look down on me. I swear that I'll leave the world of martial arts in the future and be a law-abiding mortal. Goodbye. After saying this, Pang Da bowed to Yifei dejectedly and thanked Yifei once again for not killing him. His heart was filled with regret and dispirited. However, this was reality. This was the retribution that he deserved. Even though he was forced to destroy his own dantian and become immortal, Pang Da couldn't hate Yifei. Instead, he had to thank Yifei. When everyone had abandoned him and despised him, it was Yifei who had reached out to him in the end. I'm sorry. Pang Da realized that there was a trace of sincerity in his apology to Yifei. You're not sorry to me. You're sorry to those two innocent disciples who were killed by you. In the future, you're on your own. Without accepting Pang Da's apology, Yifei flapped his golden wings and flew into the sky. There, Lin's son and the rest were still waiting for him to return to the Holy Land. Ma Zai? Very well. No matter who you are, no matter why you want to harm me, I'll make you pay the price. Chapter 257. Cold reception. Zhao Yu noticed the change in Yi Fei's expression. She looked at Yi Fei worriedly and said, "Yi Fei, are you okay?" "Don't worry, I'm fine." Yi Fei forced a smile at Zhao Yu, but he still felt very uncomfortable. Yi Fei had never heard of this Ma Zai before, nor had he seen him before. There was no enmity between the two of them. Why would this Ma Zai issue a mission for the 7-star flower to frame him? Is it because I killed the Ouyang Jia? Yi Fei thought of a possibility. It seemed that after returning to the Holy Land, he would have to think of a way to ask Ma Zai personally. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao glanced at each other, worry flashing in their eyes. Although many disciples had subconsciously avoided Yi Fei and Jia Ba's conversation, Lin Sun and Yang Xiao had still heard that the person who had framed Yi Fei was actually Ma Zai. However, they didn't say anything and remained silent all the way back to the Holy Land. Yang Xiao waited until all the ordinary inner court disciples had left before he looked at Yi Fei with a serious expression and said, "Junior brother Yi, you have to be careful of this horse slaughterer." "Oh, senior brothers, what's the background of this Ma Zai? From the looks of it, you seem to be somewhat afraid of him." Yi Fei looked at Lin Sun and Yang Xiao suspiciously. Ma Zai is ranked 3rd in the inner sect. He is a half-step martial honorable. Lin Sun said seriously. Not only that, but he is also very close with Huang Shi. In the last inner sect competition, it was because of Ma Zai's efforts that Huang Shi was able to obtain the 7th place in the inner sect. It is said that many inner sect disciples have sided with Ma Zai. Junior apprentice brother Yi, how did you offend him? Yang Xiao also looked at Yi Fei curiously. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. I don't even know who Ma Zai is. How could I offend him? However, I already have some guesses. Don't worry, I'll be fine. He didn't care why Ma Zai wanted to frame him. But since Ma Zai had done something like this, Yi Fei wouldn't forgive him easily. Let's go to the mission hall and see what's going on. After all, he had already completed the 7-star flower mission. Even if this was a trap, Yi Fei still had to get the 20,000 contribution points back. Therefore, Yi Fei decided to break up with Lin Sun and the others here. But before he could say anything, Zhao Yu, who had been standing silently to the side, suddenly said, "You're going to the mission hall, right? I'll go with you. Let's go. We also have a mission to hand in." Lin Sun and Yang Xiao looked at each other. Yang Xiao took the lead and suggested. Before Yi Fei could refuse, they led the way to the mission hall. Yi Fei understood that everyone was worried about him, which was why they had followed him to the Hall of Missions to take a look. Although he was touched, Yi Fei did not want to implicate everyone. "You guys," Yi Fei opened his mouth and was about to refuse, but Yang Xiao beat him to it and patted his shoulder heavily. Then, he winked and waved a red package hanging from his waist. Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He had been so focused on Ma Zai that he had forgotten that Yang Xiao had found the head of the Bone Envoy. Because the Taishan Sacred Land and the Dark Sky sect had always been enemies, killing an elder of the other party had a high reward on both sides. When he thought of this, Yi Fei didn't say anything else. The 4 of them walked toward the mission hall together. At that moment, an outer sect elder walked over and looked at Yi Fei with a strange expression. "Are you Junior Brother Yi? May I ask if you have a servant in the Martial Grandmaster realm? She is now waiting for you in the Sacred Lands reception hall. Feng Xinyang is here so soon." Yi Fei and Zhao Yu exchanged a strange look at the same time. The two of them had thought that Feng Xinyang and the old mansion master would definitely have something going on between them. If things went wrong, they might even reconcile and become inseparable. In the end, Feng Xinyang had still come. Moreover, she had come as Yi Fei's servant. Yi Fei really didn't know how to deal with this. When Yang Xiao heard that Yi Fei had not only taken in a martial Grandmaster realm expert as a subordinate, but also a female, Yang Xiao's eyes turned red like a rabbit's. He glared at Yi Fei and said, "Junior brother Yi, how are you better than me? You are not as handsome as me, and you are not as humorous as me. Why do you have female disciples following you, but I don't? I don't care. To make up for my broken heart, you will definitely not get a share of the reward this time." Yi Fei almost rolled his eyes when he heard this. He suddenly felt that Yang Xiao was a little cheap. Thus, he said unhappily, How about I give Feng Xinyang to you? You dare? Zhao Yu raised her eyebrows. After all, Feng Xinyang could be her grandfather's lover. If Yi Fei dared to do this, Zhao Yu would dare to drag Yi Fei out and chop him into pieces. Faintly, Yi Fei felt that the surrounding air was filled with fire, spiritual energy. He looked at Zhao Yu speechlessly and said, I'm just joking. Am I that kind of person? You are very much like that kind of person. Zhao Yu's expression was actually very serious. Yi Fei was so depressed that he didn't know what to say. He couldn't help but glare at Yang Xiao. If it wasn't for this guy, he wouldn't have said the wrong thing. Let's leave it at that for now. I'll have to trouble senior brother to let her wait a little longer. I'll go and see her after I hand in the mission. Yi Fei looked at the outer sect elder a little embarrassedly and said, It's fine, it's fine. You guys take your time. This old man does this kind of work anyway. It's not a problem. The outer sect elder who came from the reception hall replied with a smile. He only came to confirm Feng Xinyang's identity. Since it was confirmed, even if Yi Fei didn't say anything, the outer sect elder would still receive him on his behalf. After leaving, the outer sect elder returned to the reception hall. At the same time, Yi Fei, Yang Xiao, and the others were chatting and laughing as they arrived at the mission hall. Zhao Yu had accepted a simple mission and was the first to line up to hand in the mission. Yi Fei and the other two had all accepted a difficult level mission. Especially Yi Fei, the contribution points awarded from the mission had greatly exceeded the value of the 7-star flower. He was starting to feel a little worried. He immediately walked into the mission hall and found the place where he had registered his mission. He said to the deacon inside, Hello, I want a hand in the 7-star flower mission. 7-star flower mission? Let me see your identity token. The deacon inside was not the same as the one from last time. His attitude was much more arrogant. Other than showing respect to Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, who were both top 10 intersect experts, he didn't even bother to look at Yi Fei. Especially after seeing Yi Fei's identity token, the deacon's nostrils were practically pointing to the sky. You're the Yi Fei who just entered the intersect and stirred up trouble everywhere. You're really arrogant. You didn't accept the 7-star flower mission, and you still have the face to hand it in. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to get out of the mission hall immediately. For the next 3 months, you're not allowed to take a single step into the mission hall. Otherwise, I'll report this to the elders of the law enforcement hall. Chapter 258. Chapter 258. To deny one's debt. The deacon's attitude finally made Yi Fei realize that something wasn't right. Actually, when he had returned, he had felt that the 7-star flower mission wouldn't go as smoothly as it had seemed. However, Yi Fei had not expected the deacon of the mission hall to be so direct. He had completely turned hostile and refused to admit that he had accepted the 7-star flower mission. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao were even more furious. Why? Lin Sun asked coldly. His sharp eyes scared the deacon so much that his body trembled slightly. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and straightened his back. He replied loudly, There's no reason. It's because this disciple fabricated a mission. According to the rules of the Holy Land, he must accept such a punishment. I made up a mission? Yi Fei could not believe what he had just heard. When he left the Holy Land, the mission for the 7-star flower had clearly appeared on the crystal wall. He had also registered to accept the mission. Even if Ma Zai had deliberately issued the mission to harm him, the mission for the 7-star flower did indeed exist. In the end, the person in front of him was an inner court deacon of the Holy Land. Yi Fei was furious, but he could only endure it for the time being. He stared coldly at the deacon and continued to ask, You said that I fabricated the mission. Do you have any evidence? Also, I clearly registered the mission. It clearly recorded the time and content of the mission I accepted. Take it out and let me see. That's right, take it out and show it to Junior Brother Lin. You're just a deacon, yet you dare to do such a thing. If we find out what you're up to, the law enforcement hall can guarantee that you'll be skin alive. Yang Xiao threatened. The deacon's face turned pale. If he was facing a new disciple like Yi Fei, he wouldn't care too much. But now he was facing Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, 2 of the top 10 inner disciples. No matter how brave the deacon was, he wouldn't dare to offend such geniuses. I. The deacon stuttered for a long time, but he couldn't say a complete sentence. Suddenly, Huang Shu walked out from the crowd with a smile. He looked at the administrator and asked, "What's going on? I seem to have seen a disciple disregarding the rules of our mission hall and causing trouble here." Huang Shu's words had a hidden meaning. When the nervous deacon saw Huang Shu appear, he immediately found his backbone and nodded repeatedly. "Yes, senior brother Huang Shu, you're right. It's this person called Yi Fei. Not only did he cheat, he even encouraged senior brother Lin's son and senior brother Yang Xiao to come here and cause trouble." "Are we causing trouble?" Yi Fei, Lin's son, and Yang Xiao looked at each other. They felt angry and amused at the same time. It was clearly the deacon of the mission hall who had joined forces with Huang Shu to falsely accuse them. In the end, these two people still had the face to make false accusations. "Huang Shu, you are truly shameless. You know what you've done? It's none of your business here. We're arguing with this deacon. It's none of your business." Yang Xiao stood out and said. Huang Shu sneered when he heard this. He suddenly pointed at himself and said loudly, "How is it none of my business? Everyone be the judge. I, Huang Shu, was the one who accepted the 7-star flower mission. It should have been completed by me. It's just that this Yi Fei actually made up a mission and wanted to finish the 7-star flower mission before me." Boom! Huang Shu's words reverberated throughout the mission hall. This was the place where the Holy Land disciples gathered the most. Many disciples gathered around and pointed at Yi Fei, whispering among themselves, isn't that the recently famous Yi Fei? How did he offend senior brother Huang Shu? Ha, this guy really knows how to cause trouble. Of all people, he offended Huang Shu. He's definitely in for it this time. That's right. In the inner sect, anyone who offends Huang Shu doesn't have a good ending. Let's not get involved and just focus on our missions. Many people gathered around to watch the show. However, there were also a considerable number of disciples who were afraid of Huang Shu's back and left quietly. Lin's son and Yang Xiao were furious when they heard that Huang Shu was taking revenge on Yi Fei. "Huang Shu, you're too much. You were the one who schemed against us and wanted to snatch the 7-star flower. In the end, junior brother Yi stopped you. How dare you say such things?" Yang Xiao looked at Huang Shu angrily. Lin Sen's gaze was also cold. However, they didn't act rashly. After all, Huang Shu's backing was not small. This could be seen from the fact that the deacon in the mission hall had to curry favor with him. "Senior brothers, thank you. However, this is between me and Huang Shu. Let me settle it with him." Yi Fei didn't back down. Instead, he took a step forward and faced Huang Shu. He knew that Huang Shu must be angry at him for taking away the invisibility charm. That was why Huang Shu was taking revenge on him. However, Yi Fei wasn't afraid at all. He continued to stare at the deacon and said, "You, show me the mission record book." Lin's son and Yang Zhao's eyes lit up. That's right. Huang Shu and this deacon could talk nonsense, but they didn't have the guts to tamper with the mission record. Hearing Yi Fei's words, Huang Shu smiled sinisterly. "Yi Fei, it seems like you still haven't given up. Fine. Now, I'll let you know how sad your fate is if you offend me. You, show him the record so that everyone can see how Yi Fei deceived everyone." Yes. Hearing Huang Shu's words, the arrogant deacon immediately became like a bootlicker. He nodded and bowed. He quickly displayed the mission record Yi Fei accepted on the crystal wall through the array. Boom. The disciples present were in an uproar. Lin's son and Yang Zhao's expressions also changed. Yi Fei frowned. He had underestimated how despicable Huang Shu could be. Not only did he collude with this deacon to frame him, the worst thing was that Huang Shu really had the guts to change the mission record. Yi Fei saw that on the crystal wall, other than the time he accepted the mission, the rest of the information, such as the contribution points reward, had been adjusted from 20,000 points to the normal 10,000 points. The name of the mission had also changed from Yi Fei to Huang Shu. At this moment, Yi Fei realized how unscrupulous Huang Shu was in the inner sect. He even had the means to change the mission record, which was said to be unchangeable. Huang Shu, it seems like you've really put in a lot of effort to deal with me. Yifei looked at Huang Shu with a cold smile. Originally, he didn't care much about Huang Shu. But now, since Huang Shu had done such a thing, Yifei definitely wouldn't forgive him. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. But Yifei, you trash are really arrogant. This mission is clearly mine, yet you dare to impersonate me to submit it. How should you be punished? Huang Shu said proudly. The deacon beside him pointed at Yifei and shouted, Yifei, the evidence for your crime is conclusive. If you don't want to alert the disciplinary hall and be punished, get lost immediately. From today onwards, you're not allowed to take a step into the mission hall. Boom! The deacon's words shocked all the disciples present. Many of them knew that those who offended Huang Shu usually didn't have a good ending. Chapter 259. You just have to be arrogant. It's over. Yifei is completely finished. Isn't that so? Originally, with his talent and potential, he would have a bright future ahead of him. However, he just had to offend Huang Xia. Many people who had suffered at the hands of Huang Shu cast sympathetic glances at Yifei. Lin Sun and Yang Zhao's faces had become extremely unsightly. The two of them looked at Yifei and gave him a questioning look. Yifei shook his head, indicating that it was not the right time yet and that they should wait a little longer. Disciple Yifei, didn't you hear what I said? I want you to scram out of the mission hall. You're not allowed to take a single step back in the future. The deacon, who had Huang Xia's support, hurled insults at Yifei. Yifei did not say anything. He used his actions instead of words. When no one expected it, Yifei made a move. Ha! The heavy and resounding slap left 5 shocking bloody scars on half of the deacon's face. His body slid uncontrollably along the ground, leaving a long trail of blood behind him. I don't know how to roll. You, on the other hand, have a pretty standard rolling posture. You must have practiced it often. Yifei retracted his hand and looked coldly at the warden. You. The deacon's face was covered in blood. He was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood. He almost fainted from anger. It wasn't that there weren't any arrogant and despotic disciples, but no one like Yifei, who beat up a deacon of the mission hall in front of everyone, had ever appeared in the Holy Land. Everyone was shocked at first. Then, they all looked at Yifei in fear. Obviously, this Yifei was a ruthless person that they couldn't afford to offend. Junior brother Yi, you were too impulsive. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao smiled bitterly. It was already very troublesome to offend Huang Shu. Now that Yifei was behaving so arrogantly, wasn't this giving Huang Shu an excuse to attack him? What's there to be impulsive about? To deal with this kind of dog that bullies on the back of its master, a slap is already considered light. Zhao Yu walked over from afar. Even though she was wearing a veil, it couldn't conceal her stunning beauty. Many disciples were mesmerized by her beauty. Huang Shu was even more amazed. He didn't even have time to look at the injured deacon. He hurriedly showed his most elegant side and greeted Zhao Yu. You must be junior sister Zhao, right? Sure enough, you're as beautiful as your name suggests. I'm Huang Xia, and I'm quite popular in the inner sanctum. Junior sister, when are you free to discuss martial arts problems with me? Huang Xia, I'm sorry, I've never heard of this name in the inner sect. Zhao Yu's voice was very cold. So cold that many people wanted to laugh at Huang Shu. However, Zhao Yu's voice was gentle. Of course, this gentleness was directed towards Yifei. Aren't you supposed to hand in your mission? Why haven't you finished it yet? Zhao Yu's tone was a little resentful, but Yifei knew that Zhao Yu was just putting on an act. She was deliberately trying to disgust Huang Shu and help him vent his anger. Sure enough, when they saw that Zhao Yu was ignoring Huang Shu and acting very familiar with Yifei, many of the disciples present looked at Huang Shu strangely. Many of them even had a hint of mockery in their eyes. You, Huang Shu would have such a day? Roar. Seeing this scene, Huang Shu's originally smiling face turned the color of a pig's liver. He couldn't vent his anger on Zhao Yu, so he might as well vent it all on Yifei. Huang Shu angrily pointed at his shoes and said, Yifei, I'll give you a chance. If you kneel down now and wipe my shoes clean, I'll consider not holding you responsible. Otherwise, I'll inform the disciplinary elder and have him cripple your cultivation and expel you from the Holy Land." Boom! Huang Shu's words completely shocked the surrounding disciples. No one expected Huang Shu to ban Yi Fei from the mission hall for life. He even wanted to inform the disciplinary elder to cripple Yi Fei's cultivation. "Huang Shu, you've gone too far." Lin Sun and Yang Xiao were both angry. "No, Huang Shu isn't going too far." Yi Fei suddenly spoke up for Huang Shu. Everyone present was stunned, including Huang Shu himself. But just as he was stunned, Yi Fei suddenly sneered and rushed in front of Huang Shu. He said coldly, "Because what I do will only be worse than what he did." "Huang Shu, do you really think that you can take revenge on me with this little trick?" "Yi Fei, what are you doing? This is the mission hall. Damn it, don't you dare hit me." Huang Shu retreated in panic. But before he could retreat, pa! A heavy slap to the face. Huang Shu was already dizzy. He was hit again. This time, he was even more unlucky. He was slapped by Yi Fei in front of countless disciples. This was a great humiliation. Anger made Huang Shu lose his mind. With a loud roar, 8 Qi arms were about to smash Yi Fei with a force that could tear apart mountains. "Stop! How dare you use force in the mission hall? What kind of disciple is this? How dare you be so impudent?" Suddenly, a loud shout came from the back of the crowd. Someone appeared in front of Huang Shu and stopped him from acting rashly. Seeing who it was, Huang Shu immediately complained, "Senior brother Ma Zai, you have to help me get justice. Mother of Asterisker, this Yi Fei is too arrogant. He actually dared to hit me, and even hit my face." Huang Shu was so angry that smoke came out his nostrils. However, this was exactly what Ma Zai wanted. Seeing that the 7-star flower was unable to kill Yi Fei, Ma Zai immediately came up with a vicious plan. He first let Huang Shu provoke Yi Fei. As long as Yi Fei showed a slight flaw, Ma Zai would have a way to kill Yi Fei. "Elder, this is Yi Fei that I mentioned to you before. This person impersonated junior brother Huang Shu and made up a mission. Now, he is committing violence in public. He is simply evil. Elder, I beg you to immediately cripple his cultivation and send him to the reflection cliff to face the wall for 50 years. Ma Zai said respectfully to the enforcement elder, who had appeared at the same time. The enforcement elder nodded and looked coldly at Yi Fei. He made up a mission and committed violence in the mission hall. This disciple of yours is indeed evil. Now, follow me to the law enforcement hall." Boom! As the enforcement elder spoke, he released his aura. His martial, honored realm cultivation scared many disciples, and they quickly retreated. They all looked at Yi Fei with sympathy. Many people could see that this was a death trap for Yi Fei. If Yi Fei could swallow his anger and not be so impulsive and arrogant, Ma Zai and Huang Shu's plan wouldn't have been so successful. Unfortunately, Yi Fei wasn't someone who would swallow his anger. Facing Huang Shu and Ma Zai together, he still acted so arrogantly. If this wasn't courting death, what was? Many disciples started to shake their heads. They thought that Yi Fei's life was completely ruined because of his impulsiveness. At this moment, seeing Ma Zai and the law enforcement elder that Ma Zai had brought with him, Yi Fei finally laughed. It was a mocking sneer. "You are Ma Zai. I thought that you were someone important, but in the end, you were just a clown who knows how to play dirty tricks. Do you really think that you can frame me with your little tricks? How naive. Elder, before you take me away, do I have the right to explain myself?" Chapter 260. Chapter 260, I won't compromise. Chapter 260, I will not compromise, that's right. What else do you have to explain? Not only did you beat up the mission manager, you even dare to beat me up. If I don't kill you, I, Huang Shi, will change my surname to yours. Huang Shu roared furiously. Even if he couldn't do anything in front of the law enforcement elder, he still had to kill Yi Fei. Otherwise, how could he, an expert ranked 7th in the intersect, be slapped in the face in public? How infuriating would that be? Elder, me too. This Yi Fei is so arrogant and despotic. It's clearly not his mission, but he still came to submit it. I was just following the rules to punish him, but he actually beat me up like this." The deacon walked over and pointed at his bloody face as he cried. However, when he looked at Yi Fei, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. The law enforcement elder also looked at the injured deacon very seriously. He nodded coldly and said, "Don't worry, this old man has seen everything that has happened to you. Even if this person had a glib tongue, he could not escape the punishment he deserved. Yi Fei, let me ask you something. You fabricated a mission and pretended to be Huang Shu. Is this true?" "No, the missions I accept are all registered. It's just that this manager deliberately tampered with the registration in order to curry favor with Huang Xie." "Now you're slandering me," Yi Fei said solemnly. "Nonsense. You piece of trash. You don't admit what you've done, and you even dare to accuse us." Huang Shu and the deacon looked at Yi Fei angrily. Then they shouted at the disciplinary elder, "Elder, you must help us." The enforcement elder stared at Yi Fei and snorted coldly. "Humph. Yi Fei, I don't care how talented you are, but you better not be too arrogant in front of me. Let me ask you again. You beat up Huang Xie and committed a crime in the mission hall. Is that true?" "No, they were despicable and deserved a beating. I was just satisfying their despicable desires." Yi Fei spoke eloquently, not realizing that he had made a mistake. His words angered Huang Shu and the deacon so much that they roared angrily. The law-enforcing elder's face turned even colder. A strong pressure instantly pressed down on Yi Fei like a mountain. "Shut up. How dare a disciple like you act so arrogantly in front of me? I won't talk about the 7 Stars Flower mission for now, but you openly caused trouble in the mission hall and beat up a deacon. This old man saw it with his own eyes, and you actually dare to quibble? Why aren't you kneeling before this old man and confessing your mistakes?" Boom! The surrounding pressure suddenly increased. Many of the disciples who were watching the show turned pale and kept retreating. However, a strong sword intent suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's body. A sword would rather break than bend. A martial artist would rather die than be humiliated. Even though he was facing a martial honorable realm elder, Yi Fei did not give in at all. Instead, he took a step forward and released a powerful sword intent as he shouted, "If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You've decided that I'm guilty just based on what you've seen. I think you're really muddle-headed as the law-enforcing elder." There was an uproar. Faced with a martial honorable realm elder who was in charge of enforcing the law, Yi Fei was so frightened that he immediately admitted his mistakes and begged for mercy. He actually dared to publicly accuse the law-enforcing elder. How arrogant was he? How insolent! Lunatic! This is simply lunatic. Yi Fei, this is your explanation. Very well, based on what you've said, I can cripple your cultivation and expel you from the Holy Lands. The law-enforcing elder was furious. No disciple had ever dared to be so arrogant in front of the law-enforcing elder. Ma Zai and Huang Shu both smiled complacently. Ma Zai even patted the injured deacon's shoulder, praising him for playing the trick of injuring himself to gain their sympathy. So what if Yi Fei was talented? They had played a small trick on him, and he had been tortured to death. Mother asterisk her, this is the consequence of offending me, Huang Xie. When the elder cripples his cultivation, I will definitely torture him ruthlessly. Huang Xie touched his face that was slapped, and his eyes shone with an ominous light. Cripple my cultivation? Law-enforcing elder, please take a look at this before you do anything. What is this? Even in the face of a furious martial honorable, Yi Fei did not retreat. He withstood the huge pressure and took a step forward. Then, he threw a token at the law-enforcing elder. What nonsense token is this? Your disciple is too arrogant. He has the nature of a demon. Today, I will eliminate this arrogant disciple on behalf of the Holy Lands. The law-enforcing elder shouted angrily. He did not even look at the token that Yi Fei had thrown at him and smashed it into pieces with a punch. In the law-enforcing elder's opinion, with Yi Fei's strength, the most he could do was to take out an intersect elder's token. With Yi Fei's offense, no intersect elder could change his mind. At that moment, Lin's son, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said coldly, You dare to destroy Sword Peak's token? What? Sword Peak's token? The law-enforcing elder was shocked when he heard this. He quickly looked at the token that he had smashed. It was Sword Peak's, Sword Peak's, Sword Peak's, Sword Peak. His anger suddenly disappeared, and large amounts of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The law-enforcing elder could ignore the tokens of other intersect elders. However, Sword Peak was different. This was Sword Maniac Elder's unique token. With Sword Maniac Elder's status, even the entire law enforcement hall could not afford to offend him. Yifei looked coldly at the law-enforcing elder and said mockingly, "Didn't you want to cripple my cultivation? Why aren't you doing anything?" "Junior brother Yi, what are you talking about? I did not know that you were from Sword Peak." The law-enforcing elder was on the verge of tears. He forced a smile at Yifei and glared angrily at Ma Zai. If he had known that Yifei was related to Sword Peak, he would not have gotten involved in this mess unless he was muddle-headed. Huang Shu's expression changed when he sensed that the law-enforcing elder was a little afraid of Yifei. He could not take the beating for nothing. "Ma Zai, you promised me, don't worry. It's just Sword Peak. It's nothing. Elder, you won't bend the law for personal gain just because Yifei has a backer, right?" Ma Zai looked coldly at the law-enforcing elder. The law-enforcing elder shivered. He could not afford to offend Sword Peak. However, the powerful existence behind Ma Zai was even more terrifying than Sword Peak. After all, no matter how strong Sword Peak was, it had few members. However, the person behind Ma Zai was different. As long as that person said something, it could even affect the highest decision of the sacred land. After weighing the pros and cons of both sides, the law-enforcing elder suddenly made up his mind. He nodded at Ma Zai with a straight face and said, "Junior brother Ma Zai is right. Even if Yifei is from Sword Peak, I cannot condone my disciples' violent acts. Yifei, I will not pursue the matter of your fabricated mission since I did not see it. However, I cannot allow you to cause trouble in the mission hall. I sentence you to go to the cliff of reflection and face the wall for a year. What do you think?" Of course, the law-enforcing elder did not dare to completely offend Sword Peak. He might as well just give a light punishment. This also made Ma Zai and Huang Shu's expressions turn ugly. However, after this incident, Yifei would definitely not be able to participate in the upcoming Intersect Grand Competition. It would also greatly affect his future cultivation. Only then did they feel a little better. The surrounding disciples also looked at Yifei with envy. This was the benefit of having a powerful backer. With Sword Peak behind him, even the law-enforcing elder had a compromise. Chapter 261. Chapter 261 To apologize profusely. I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I compromise? This was Yifei's attitude. This attitude caused all the disciples present to turn pale. The disciplinary elder's face was filled with anger. Ma Zai and Huang, she looked at Yifei as if they were looking at a fool. He didn't want to compromise. He actually didn't want to compromise. This fool, did he want to die? Not compromising? You're actually not compromising? Zhao Yu looked at Yifei in a daze. I did nothing wrong. Why should I compromise? Yifei asked as he looked at Zhao Yu, Lin Sun, and Yang Xiao. He also looked at the law enforcement elder, who was livid with anger. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao immediately understood. However, it was precisely because of this understanding that they were even more shocked by Yifei's actions. Yifei refused to compromise with a martial honorable realm expert. Yifei also refused to submit to the bullying of Huang, Shu, and Ma Zai. What kind of boldness was this? Lin Sun and Yang Xiao asked themselves, if they were in Yifei's shoes, would they be able to be as fearless as Yifei? You refuse to compromise? How dare you refuse to compromise? I gave you face, but you don't want it. Do you think you could do whatever you want with Sword Peak backing you? Yifei, do you know what kind of severe punishment you will receive if you refuse my good intentions? The law enforcement elder was very angry, very angry. He had already swallowed his pride and helped Yifei get away with the lightest punishment. Yet, this disciple before him still dared to act so arrogantly. Yifei should have been grateful for his punishment, but Yi Fei didn't want to compromise. Ma Zai smiled sinisterly and hinted to the law enforcement patriarch. Patriarch, since he is unwilling to compromise, then we should punish him severely. I believe that sword fanatic patriarch will have nothing to say if he knows about it. After all, this is Yi Fei's own insistence. We should fulfill his wish. F*CKU. Yi Fei suddenly pointed at Ma Zai and scolded. Ma Zai, who do you think you are? I'm talking to an elder. Do you think a dog like you has the right to bark? Let me tell you, you better take a detour when you see me in the future. Otherwise, I will beat you up every time I see you and Huang Shi. Yi Fei's words were overbearing and arrogant, shocking and frightening countless people. Crazy. This Yi Fei is simply a lunatic. Not only did he offend Elder Huang Xia, he even offended the powerful senior brother Ma Zai. Many inner sect disciples felt their hearts trembling when they heard Yi Fei's words. Ma Zai was enraged. He was one of the top 4 inner sect disciples. He was high and mighty, but Yi Fei dared to insult him and provoke him in public. Yi Fei, do you dare fight me? Ma Zai was enraged. He could not help but want to teach this rookie who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. All of you, shut up. The enforcement elder was thoroughly enraged. He forcefully resisted the urge to slap Yi Fei to death. Seeing that Sword Peak was not to be trifled with, he decided to give Yi Fei one last chance. Yi Fei Yu immediately apologized to junior brother Ma Zai and junior brother Huang Xia. Then, come with me to the reflection cliff. I can still pretend that nothing happened. Apologize? Ha ha, I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? Yi Fei was also enraged. He roared loudly in front of a martial honorable. The entire mission hall was filled with echoes. Countless disciples' faces turned pale. They admired Yi Fei's courage, but no one dared to agree with Yi Fei's actions. Going against a martial, honorable realm elder was simply courting death. Why should I apologize? Because Ma Zai is one of the top 10 inner sect disciples. He has made countless contributions to the sacred grounds. He has made contributions to the sacred grounds, and you have made mistakes. You have to apologize to him. Are you satisfied with my explanation? The enforcement elder was so angry that he laughed. If Yi Fei was not a member of Sword Peak, he would have immediately killed such an arrogant disciple who did not know how to repent. Yi Fei did not care about the sarcasm in the enforcement elder's words. He retorted, according to the elder's words, the one who has made the most contributions to the sacred grounds can make the other party apologize? That's right, the enforcement elder said impatiently. Very good. In that case, may I ask, elder, if I were to say that I killed an envoy of the heavenly Yin religion, would this merit be great enough? Would I be able to get Ma Zai and Huang Shi to apologize to me and admit that they framed me? Yi Fei held back his anger and stared at the law enforcement patriarch. The law enforcement patriarch was stunned, but he still said hesitantly, of course, if you can really do it, not only will you not be punished for your contribution, but the law enforcement hall will also thoroughly investigate this matter. But that's simply impossible. I'm saying if. Yi Fei insisted. Trash, that's enough. You want to kill a messenger of the heavenly Yin religion? If you can really do it, I, Huang Shiha, will be at your disposal. Huang Shiha said sarcastically. Ma Zai also looked at Yi Fei with disdain. In their opinion, for Yi Fei to be able to say such crazy words, he was either at the end of his rope or he was so angry that he was babbling nonsense. Yi Fei ignored the two's sarcasm. He only stared at the enforcement elder and said in a deep voice, so if I can really do it, the elder will stand on my side and make them apologize to me and admit their crimes. This, of course, but can you do it? The enforcement elder was very impatient. He looked at Yi Fei with eyes full of sarcasm. Ma Zai and Huang Shiha laughed wildly. They pointed at Yi Fei and scolded. It seems that junior brother Yi is not crazy. He is a complete fool. You can laugh as much as you want. You will cry later. Elder, I hope you will not forget what you said. Yi Fei also laughed. The enforcement elder did not know why, but he suddenly felt scared when he saw Yi Fei's laughter. Could it be? How could it be? Of course, I will not go back on my words. The enforcement elder shook his head slightly. He felt that he might be overthinking. Yifei was also waiting for these words. He did not say anything else. He only turned his head and nodded at Yang Xiao. Yang Xiao smiled evilly and threw the red package at Yifei. Elder, Ma Zai, Huang Shihe, I am sorry to tell you that I have killed the messenger of the heavenly Yin religion. His head is here. Elder, please accept it. Yifei looked at Huang Shihe and Ma Zai with eyes full of sarcasm. Then he threw the head to the enforcement elder. When he saw the head rolling out of the red cloth, the law-enforcing elder couldn't believe his eyes. Many of the inner disciples present also felt their minds exploding. Yifei had actually killed the messenger of the heavenly Yin religion and obtained his head. How is this possible? The enforcement elder felt that he might have been mistaken. He quickly picked up the head and checked it carefully. However, no matter how he checked, he was shocked to find that the head belonged to the messenger of the heavenly Yin religion. In other words, Yifei had really killed a martial honorable from the heavenly Yin religion. That was a martial honorable. Chapter 262. Heavy losses. No, it's fake. Yifei, it's wrong of you to do a fake mission, and now you want to use a fake head to scare us. Huang Shu refused to admit the truth. The White Bone Envoy was a martial honorable expert. How could he be killed by Yifei so easily? Huang Shu and Ma Zai were not the only ones who could not believe it. Many of the disciples present were also in disbelief. Only the law enforcement elder knew that the head was real. He had seen the bone emissary before and recognized that it was indeed the bone emissary's head. However, it was precisely because of this that the law enforcement elder was particularly shocked. Yifei, where did you get this head? You have to tell us the truth. The law enforcement elder said sternly. Senior brothers, it seems like the elder does not believe us. Yifei sneered as he looked at the law enforcement elder. He knew that these people might be able to deny it, but there were some things that they couldn't deny even if they wanted to. Elder, you better look carefully. This is the White Bone Envoy's space bag. It belongs to me now. Yifei showed the absolute proof. Demon Bone Spike. I believe the elder is familiar with it. It belongs to me now. Lin Sun showed the Demon Bone Spike and said coldly. Demon Bone Dark Spike. The most vicious heaven-level martial skill in the Dark Sky sect. I got this. Yang Xiao took out the Demon Martial skill and said coldly. Other than the elixirs that Zhao Yu had obtained, these 3 items were enough to prove that the White Bone Envoy had been killed. Elder, you have seen the evidence. If you don't believe us, we can get more than 10 inner disciples to testify. They saw the battle between us and the White Bone Envoy with their own eyes. Yifei pointed at himself, Lin Sun, Yang Xiao, and Zhao Yu. At this moment, the disciples present finally understood what had happened. If Yifei had killed the White Bone Envoy alone, no one would believe it. However, with the addition of Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, 2 of the top 10 inner disciples, it was much more believable. Not to mention, Yifei not only had a large amount of material evidence, he also had witnesses. Even the law enforcement elder wouldn't be able to deny it, let alone Huang Shu and Ma Zai. When Huang Shu and Ma Zai saw Yifei take out the spatial pouch that the Bone Envoy carried with him, they felt as if an invisible slap had ruthlessly landed on their faces, causing them to flush red and feel incomparably embarrassed. The law enforcement elder sighed and shook his head. I'm old, really old. Yifei, since you killed the White Bone Envoy, I will not punish you. I will not punish you. Let's leave this matter at that. The law enforcement elder turned to leave. Wait, elder, you seem to have forgotten something. Of course, Yifei would not let this crafty elder slip away. Yifei, I have already let you off the hook. What else do you want? The law enforcement elder's expression was gloomy. If he had known that Yifei had such a powerful weapon, he would not have gotten himself involved in this mess. Nothing much. I just want elder to clear my name and punish Huang Shu for framing me. Yifei said coldly. How do you want to punish him? The law enforcement elder was complaining in his heart. However, with so many people watching, he could not help Huang Shu even if he wanted to. It's simple. Didn't Huang Shu say that as long as I killed the White Bone Envoy, I could do whatever I wanted with him? Since he framed me, he must pay the price. I hope Elder can punish Huang Shu. From today onwards, he will never be able to step into the mission hall. Yi Fei pointed at Huang Shu. Boom! These words shocked all the disciples present. This punishment was too scary. The resources given by the Holy Land were limited. If they wanted to obtain more cultivation resources, they would have to continue doing missions. And once a disciple was prohibited from entering the mission hall, the loss would be incomparably disastrous. Not to mention, Yi Fei's request was for Huang Xie to be prohibited from entering the mission hall for the rest of his life. Such a loss would definitely cause Huang Xie to wake up from his dreams. When Huang Shu heard this punishment, he was about to explode. He pointed at Yi Fei angrily and shouted, Yi Fei, don't go overboard. I will never accept such a punishment. That's not up to you. Elder announced the punishment. Yi Fei could not be bothered with Huang Shu's clamor. He just stared at the law enforcement elder. The law enforcement elder smiled bitterly. Who told Huang Xie to say such words? He could only put on a brave face and announce, Huang Xie, in view of you framing Yi Fei, this old man announces that from now on, you are not allowed to take a single step into the mission hall. Hurry and leave. You damn it, very good, IF **K. Huang Shu was so angry that he could not speak coherently. However, he was helpless. Everyone was watching, and the law enforcement elder had personally given the order. No matter how arrogant Huang Shu was, he did not dare to disobey. He could only glare resentfully at Yi Fei and Ma Zai before leaving the mission hall angrily. Clearly, he had not succeeded in tricking Yi Fei. Instead, Huang Shu had suffered a great loss. Not only did Huang Shu hate Yi Fei, but he also hated Ma Zai for not helping him. Ma Zai's expression suddenly turned extremely ugly. He stared at Yi Fei with incomparable coldness and said, Yi Fei, count yourself lucky this time. You can turn the tables like this. You'd better not expect to meet me in the intersect grand competition. After saying that, Ma Zai turned and left angrily. Looking at Ma Zai's departing figure, Yi Fei's eyes couldn't help but flash with a cold light. However, Ma Zai was obviously much smarter than Huang Xie. This time, he completely stayed out of this matter, making it impossible for others to find a reason to deal with him. Yi Fei could only let Ma Zai go for the time being. Finally, he looked at the deacon who had targeted him and said, Elder, what about this person? As a mission deacon, this person dared to collude with others and frame an intersect disciple. According to the law, his cultivation will be crippled and he will be expelled from the sacred ground. The law enforcement elder said expressionlessly. Now that Huang Shu had left and Ma Zai had stayed out of the matter, they needed a scapegoat. This deacon happened to be the right person. Without another word, the law enforcement elder directly crippled this person's cultivation and dragged him out of the mission hall. This also made the other deacons shiver inwardly. They looked at Yi Fei with a trace of reverence. Clearly, Yi Fei's method of turning the situation around had completely frightened these deacons. Before Yi Fei could say anything, a new deacon came over to help Yi Fei register for the 7-star flower mission. He also received a huge reward for killing the bone envoy, a total of 100,000 contribution points. Yang Xiao was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. However, Yi Fei still felt a little unhappy. This time, Ma Zai was smart. He didn't attack directly. Instead, he used Huang Shu. As a result, Yi Fei didn't get revenge on Ma Zai. Yi Fei felt a thorn in his heart. Lin Sun walked over after handing in a mission and said coldly, Junior brother Yi, are you really going to oppose Ma Zai? It's not that I want to oppose him. It's just that this Ma Zai won't let me off. Of course, I won't let him off either, Yi Fei said gloomily. He wasn't a gentleman if he didn't take revenge. Furthermore, that Ma Zai had tried to frame him twice in a row and kill him. This kind of grudge had to be settled as soon as possible. It couldn't possibly affect his martial heart. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. An auction. An auction in Taishan City? Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He remembered that his golden rock wings were obtained from an auction, in Oyangjia. Since Mazai was also there, he could spare some time to go over and take a look. The rest of the quest handover went smoothly as well. With the lesson of the previous deacon's blood and tears, Yifei easily completed the 7 Starflower quest and received 10,000 contribution points. Including the 25,000 contribution points he received from killing the Bone Envoy, he also received a huge sum of 200,000 contribution points. Yifei already had a total of 235,000 contribution points. This was definitely an extremely shocking number. Yang Zhao's eyes were red with envy. However, compared to envy, Yang Xiao had more important things to do. That was to bring the royal jelly to have a heart-to-heart talk with the junior sisters in the inner sect. Therefore, after handing in the task, Yang Xiao dragged Lin's son and left. Junior Martial Brother Yi, let's meet again at the Inner Court Grand Competition. All right, I'll see you in the Inner Sect Grand Competition. Yifei, I have to go back into seclusion as well. See you at the Inner Sect Tournament, Zhao Yu said as he walked over. Then, he turned around and left. Wait a minute. Zhao Yu, take this. Yifei stopped Zhao Yu and took out a beehive from his interspatial bag. He handed it to Zhao Yu and said, there's royal jelly inside. I heard that it can preserve one's youthful looks. It might be useful for you. Zhao Yu glared at her. What? Do I look ugly now? I didn't say that. Yifei broke out in a cold sweat. He only wanted to thank Zhao Yu for helping her remove the poison. Could it be that he had accidentally given her the wrong thing? Thinking about it, Zhao Yu was already beautiful enough to bring disaster to a country. She was a typical femme fatale. If she were to give her royal jelly to retain her youthful looks, how would the other seniors and juniors survive? Yifei was about to put away the royal jelly when Zhao Yu snatched it away. Then she spread her hands and continued with a blush on her ears. I want another one. Sure enough, Yang Sun was right. No matter how beautiful a female disciple was, she couldn't resist the temptation of becoming more beautiful. Helpless, he could only give Zhao Yu another beehive. Only then did the two of them leave. Zhao Yu returned to the inner sect and went into seclusion to cultivate. Yifei rushed to the reception hall of the Taishan Holy Land as fast as he could. Coincidentally, the reception hall of the Holy Land was not in the small world of the Holy Land, but the entrance of the Holy Land in Taishan City. When Yifei arrived at the reception hall, Feng Xinyang was already waiting for him. When she saw Yifei, she hurriedly bowed. This servant greets the master. May the master be blessed. Yifei was a little embarrassed when he heard this. Fourth mother, you are considered my elder. You can just call me Yifei in the future. Considering the special relationship between Feng Xinyang and the old manor head, Yifei naturally wouldn't treat Feng Xinyang like a servant. If he did, the old manor head would probably come personally and fight him to the death. No, etiquette cannot be broken. I promised the Demon Emperor to be your servant for 3 years. I will not go back on my word, Feng Xinyang said firmly. Yifei was a little speechless. He understood that Feng Xinyang was determined to use this method to become the Demon Emperor's registered disciple. He couldn't stand in Feng Xinyang's way. He could only nod and say, then don't call me master. It's awkward. Just call me by my name. By the way, you can enter the Holy Land now. I'll go to Taishan City first. Yifei thought that since he was already in Taishan City, he could go to the auction to see what it was like. Feng Xinyang's eyes flashed. Master, no, Yifei, you want to go to the auction in Taishan City? Oh, Xinyang, you know about the auction too? Yifei was a little surprised. Feng Xinyang smiled and said, I heard it from the outer sect elder who received me. He said that the inner sect competition of the Holy Land is about to begin. Many inner sect disciples will go to the auction to buy some treasures or martial arts techniques that can improve their strength. I paid attention to it. If Master wants to go, I can lead the way. Well, then I will have to trouble you. Yifei nodded helplessly. Since Feng Xinyang was determined to be his servant, he had no choice. He could only let Feng Xinyang do as she wished. However, this Feng Xinyang was worthy of being a former chief. Yifei was focused on cultivation and rarely cared about other things. Feng Xinyang could do everything in an orderly manner. She helped Yifei deal with many chores in advance. This made Yi Fei feel that it was not a bad idea to have Feng Xinyang by his side as a helper. Feng Xinyang led Yi Fei to the auction in Taishan City. It was simply a sea of people. There were more inner-sect disciples selling things outside than there were disciples doing tasks in the mission hall. Yi Fei was secretly shocked. Then, he noticed another person. Ma Zai. Ha ha! It turns out to be Senior Ma Zai. You have finally come to take care of the business of our merchant union. Seeing Ma Zai arrive, the manager of the merchant union immediately flew out to greet him. His face was full of smiles, but in Yi Fei's eyes, this manager's smile was a kind of bitter smile no matter how he looked at it. Two inner-sect disciples passing by saw that Ma Zai had come to the auction again after only a few days. Their faces were very ugly. Zai, what bad luck. Brother Ma Zai came 3 days ago, and now he is here again. It seems that we will not have a share of the treasures in this auction again. He's just a dog relying on its master's power. He is here to auction, but to put it bluntly, he is here to rob. We should all be careful. I heard that whoever bids with him during the auction will suffer Ma Zai's crazy revenge afterwards. These two inner-sect disciples whispered as they entered the auction. Yi Fei's eyes instantly became cold. Whoever bids will suffer revenge. It seems that this Ma Zai has offended many people in the inner sect. Senior, is this your first time at our merchant union's auction? Do you need me to lead the way? Yi Fei was thinking. The manager of the merchant union had already noticed Yi Fei's unfamiliar face and flew over to greet him. Of course, this manager was also a genuine 10th grade martial ancestor realm expert. He was actually willing to lower his status and address Yi Fei as a senior. It was clear that this merchant union was very good at business. It was no wonder that this place was bustling with people coming and going. It was even more lively than the mission hall. Yi Fei had originally come over to take a look. However, because this person had addressed him as a senior, he had to give face and enter to take a look. Moreover, Ma Zai was inside. Do you know what treasure Ma Zai is auctioning inside? Yi Fei looked at the manager and asked. When he heard that Yi Fei did not address Ma Zai as Brother Ma Zai, but directly called him by his name, this person thought that Yi Fei and Ma Zai were friends. Chapter 264. Chi-Chu-Chu. Even though this was what he was thinking, the manager of the merchant union still had a smile on his face. He nodded repeatedly and said, Senior, please come in. Senior Ma Zai is in the number 1 private room. You can go and see him in person now. If you're short on money and do not have enough spirit crystals, you can also pay with contribution points. What? You can use contribution points for the auctions here? Yi Fei was a little surprised. Of course, the contribution points of the Holy Land are the same as spiritual crystals. They are both hard currencies that our business alliance is willing to purchase. 1 contribution point is equivalent to 1 spiritual crystal. Although the manager was unhappy, he could tell that it was Yi Fei's first time here, so he explained patiently. These words made Yi Fei's eyes light up. He felt the pinch when he used spirit crystals, but if he used contribution points, he now had more than 230,000 spirit crystals on him. That was a huge amount of wealth. No wonder Huang Xie was forbidden from entering the mission hall. His expression was even uglier than someone who had swallowed a fly. So contribution points are actually so valuable. A total of 230,000 contribution points were equivalent to 230,000 spiritual crystals, which was equivalent to the sum of hundreds of spiritual crystal mines. Just thinking about it made Yi Fei's blood boil. Thus, the rich and overbearing Yi Fei brought Feng Xinyang inside. At this time, the auction inside had already begun. However, the items that were auctioned at the very beginning were not anything good. Many masters disdained to compete. Generally, only some of the super families of Taishan City competed with each other. Without stopping below the stage, Yi Fei went straight to the 2nd floor of the attic. There were several rooms facing the venue, which should be the private rooms for the auction. Here, Yi Fei also saw Ma Zai, who was sitting in the sky room number 1 and enjoying the flattery of a group of inner disciples. Of course, Ma Zai had also noticed Yi Fei walking up. His good mood instantly turned dark. He glared at Yi Fei with extreme displeasure and called out to Yi Fei ambiguously. I was wondering who it was. So it's Junior Brother Yi. What's the matter? Junior Brother Yi, you're done being arrogant in the inner sect and want to show off at the auction? Unfortunately, this was a competition of money. You better not compete with me. Otherwise, I'll make you regret ever being born in this world. Ma Zai's words were not only for Yi Fei to hear, but also for everyone present to hear. In an auction, the highest bidder would be the one to obtain the treasure. However, Ma Zai's behavior was incomparably rude and unreasonable. He directly warned everyone present to not compete with him. Whoever competed with him would be offending Ma Zai. The inner disciples and the super clans in the city, who had been eager to bid for the precious treasures, all fell silent. Ma Zai was one of the top 3 experts in the Holy Land's inner sect. Who would dare to provoke him? Even the manager of the Merchant Alliance had a bitter smile on his face. He knew that many of the treasures were going to be taken away by force at extremely low prices. Is that so? What a coincidence. I indeed feel that there's no point in being arrogant in the inner sect. After all, the people I face are just clowns. However, the auction is different. As long as I have enough contribution points, I can auction off whatever I want. Yi Fei ignored Ma Zai and walked over to the second Tianzi box. He said to the person sitting behind the beaded curtain, Senior Brother, I wonder if we can switch boxes. I want to get closer to Senior Brother Ma Zai. This was the first time anyone at the auction had seen someone who dared to not give Ma Zai face to his face and even had the intention of bidding with him. Many of the inner sect disciples who had been taken advantage of by Ma Zai were secretly excited. Ma Zai's face revealed a crazed, murderous intent before he restrained it, as if nothing had happened. It was clear that this person was very shrewd, especially when he saw Yi Fei come over and ask for the second Tianzi box. Ma Zai's face revealed a hint of ridicule, as if he was anticipating something. Some of the stronger inner sect disciples also looked at Yi Fei with strange expressions. They knew that Yi Fei wanted to occupy the second Tianzi box and compete with Ma Zai in the first Tianzi box. However, Yi Fei had chosen the wrong seat this time. Haha, this junior brother is indeed arrogant. It's not enough that he provoked Senior Brother Ma Zai. He even dares to ask for a seat from Senior Sister Qi. Do you guys think that this kid will be thrown out of the auction by Senior Sister Qi in the next second? Damn, Senior Sister Qi? The person sitting inside was actually a woman? Yi Fei suddenly realized that he seemed to have done something stupid. It was all because of the beaded curtain. How could he have known that the person sitting inside was actually a female disciple? He immediately rubbed his nose in embarrassment and said, Sorry, I was wrong. I'll find another box. After saying that, Yi Fei was about to leave. At this moment, a burst of laughter suddenly came from behind the beaded curtain. That laughter was absolutely enough to make one's bones turn brittle. The beaded curtain slowly opened, revealing a very charming woman's face. It was different from Zhao Yu's perfect and otherworldly beauty. This woman's beauty actually contained a trace of seduction. Her pair of beautiful big eyes looked at Yi Fei without blinking. She said, Junior brother, do you want to change seats with me? Cough, cough. I was mistaken. I'm sorry to disturb senior sister. Yi Fei said somewhat awkwardly. If the person in front of him was a male disciple, he could still discuss the matter of seats with him. However, this was a woman. Furthermore, she was a half-step martial saint. Yi Fei could not help sweating. Little brother, you're quite polite. How about this? Seeing that you're so obedient, I can't give this seat to you. However, we can sit together. The woman gestured at Yi Fei with her finger, indicating for Yi Fei to sit beside her. Yi Fei immediately felt his mouth go dry. He was secretly shocked by this woman's strength. She could actually affect his state of mind. Chi-Chu-Chu, what do you mean by this? This person provoked you. Instead of dealing with him, you actually let him sit with you. Don't tell me you want to go against me. Ma Zai suddenly became furious. Chi-Chu-Chu was the fourth strongest expert in the inner sect. She was also the only female in the inner sect's top 10. Although Chi-Chu-Chu looked very seductive, Those who knew her knew the consequences of provoking her were very serious. When Ma Zai saw that Yi Fei was actually going to discuss the seats with Qi Chu Chu, he was secretly happy. He was looking forward to Yi Fei being ruthlessly rebuffed. However, Qi Chu Chu's performance shocked Ma Zai. Not only did Qi Chu Chu not deal with the male disciples who approached her like she usually did, she even invited them to sit together. One must know that even he, Ma Zai, had never received such treatment. Ma Zai was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Qi Chu Chu ignored Ma Zai's warning. She even smiled sweetly at Yi Fei and said, "What's wrong? Are you afraid that I'll eat you up? Or is your competition with Ma Zai just for show, little brother?" Yi Fei was very depressed when he was called little brother. Even though he knew that Qi Chu Chu was trying to provoke him, Yi Fei naturally could not back down at this time. Furthermore, after seeing Ma Zai's unbridled attitude, Yi Fei also knew that apart from Qi Chu Chu, no one would dare to give him a seat. Without a seat, he would not be able to participate in this auction. Chapter 265. To throw away 1,000 gold as they spoke, Yi Fei had already walked into Qi Chu Chu's private room. However, he did not sit together with Qi Chu Chu. Despite Qi Chu Chu's strong invitation, Yi Fei decisively chose to ignore Qi Chu Chu's resentful gaze when he saw that there was only enough space for one person. He and Feng Xinyang, one on the left and one on the right, stood at the entrance, acting as door gods. However, this was also in accordance with the rules of participating in the auction. The manager of the Merchant Alliance naturally turned a blind eye to this. He even hoped that the fight between Yi Fei and Ma Zai would be as intense as possible. I couldn't tell that little brother is actually quite shy. Qi Chu Chu covered her mouth and giggled. She seemed to be interested in Yi Fei. The way she called him little brother was so soft that Yi Fei had the urge to beat her up. Unfortunately, Qi Chu Chu was a woman, so Yi Fei could only endure it. Now up for auction, item number 95, an earth fire essence that can increase one's cultivation. If this item is used together with the blood jade golden lotus, it can allow one to break through to the next realm. Just as Yi Fei entered the private room, the auction had reached its most precious part. This was especially so for the earth fire essence. Not only could it raise one's cultivation level, but it could also allow a martial ancestor realm expert to break through when consumed together with the blood jade golden lotus. Just this point alone was enough to drive many martial arts grandmasters who were stuck at a bottleneck and unable to break through crazy. Before the auctioneer of the Merchant Alliance could finish his introduction, there was already a flurry of bidding from below. "I'll pay 5,000 spiritual crystals. The Li family is determined to get the earth fire essence. Please give us some face." "Brother Li, it's not that we don't want to give you face, but the treasure is too rare. My son has been stuck at the 7th layer martial ancestor realm for a long time. With this earth flame essence, he would surely be able to achieve a better result in the inner disciple trial of the sacred area. 8,000 spiritual crystals. 9,000. Wait a minute, I'm Ma Feng, the 58th disciple of the inner sect. Give me some face and give me 10,000 contribution points. How about that?" The earth fire essence was too precious. Not only were the various aristocratic families of Taixuan City fighting for it, even the disciples of the Mountain River list were not willing to be outdone and joined in the fight. Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. When he was in the 7 treasure forest, besides searching for the 7-star flower, he had also accidentally obtained the blood jade golden lotus. If he could obtain the earth fire essence as well, he would definitely be able to break through to the 8th level martial ancestor realm. "I must obtain this earth fire essence." Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a fiery passion as he was about to bid. At this time, Ma Zai's cold voice suddenly sounded from the Sky Number 1 box. "4,000 contribution points. I want this earth flame essence. Everyone, please give me, Ma Zai, some face." The entire auction hall fell into a dead silence. Originally, the starting price of the earth fire essence was 5,000 spiritual crystals or contribution points. Ma Zai, on the other hand, was competing at a price that was a full 1,000 points lower than the starting price. How was this an auction? This was simply daylight robbery. When the manager of the business alliance who was in charge of the auction heard Ma Zai's bid, his face almost turned green. He was helpless. The person who said that was Ma Zai, the expert ranked third on the mountain river list of the Taishan Holy Land. Who would dare to reject him? Even though they knew that Ma Zai's actions were no different from that of a bandit, those who were bidding still kept their mouths shut and did not dare to bid again. No matter how angry the manager of the business alliance was, he had to keep a smile on his face. He straightforwardly announced, "Senior Ma Zai has bid 4,000 contribution points for this Earth Fire Essence. Is there anyone who bids higher than 4,000 contribution points? If not, this Earth Fire Essence will belong to Senior Ma Zai." At this point, the manager of the business alliance almost cried. The starting price was 5,000 contribution points, and Ma Zai had actually bid 4,000 contribution points for it. That meant that the business alliance would not only not earn a single cent from this treasure, they would also lose 1,000 spiritual crystals. Yifei was also very surprised. He was secretly surprised at Ma Zai's good calculations. It was no wonder that this person would run to the auction every 2 to 3 days. 8,000 contribution points. Just as everyone thought that this Earth Fire Essence would definitely belong to Ma Zai, Yifei spoke up nonchalantly. Furthermore, he doubled the price the moment he opened his mouth. Yifei's voice roused the spirits of many people present. Finally, someone who dared to compete with Ma Zai had appeared. Although they didn't dare make a sound, many of them started to silently cheer for Yifei in their hearts. Ma Zai was even more furious as he walked out of private room number 1. He glared at Yifei and said, "Yifei, you dare to compete with me? This is an auction. What we compete with is money. Why wouldn't I dare compete? If you don't have the money, then scram to the side. Don't obstruct me from auctioning this treasure." Yifei retorted sharply. Since the two of them were destined to be enemies, he naturally wouldn't be polite. When Ma Zai heard this, he was so angry that his entire body trembled. Unfortunately, both of them were inner sect disciples and simply couldn't fight in the sacred land. No matter how angry he was, Ma Zai could only swallow his anger. "Haha. Do you think I don't have the money? I have so many contribution points that you will faint. Don't think that you have the right to compete with me just because you got lucky and completed a mission and earned some contribution points." 10,000. Ma Zai started to bid normally. 20,000. Yifei didn't even blink as he doubled the price. 30,000. Ma Zai was enraged. He couldn't wait to drag Yifei out and beat him to death. He could have bought the treasure at a low price of 4,000 contribution points, but Yifei had forcefully raised the price to such a high price. 40,000. Yifei didn't feel that Ma Zai wasn't angry enough. He directly increased the price by another 10,000 contribution points. This was a classic example of being rich and overbearing, throwing money away like this. It scared many of the similarly rich super family clans. They even felt their breathing stop. One had to know that the normal price of an Earth Fire Essence was about 20,000 contribution points. However, Yifei had directly doubled the price. How was this an auction? This was simply flaunting his wealth. However, no one present thought that Yifei was being arrogant. Instead, they were all secretly cheering for Yifei in their hearts. Well done. There's finally someone who can take care of Ma Zai. Ha ha ha. I never imagined that Ma Zai would have such a day. All these years, he has relied on his strength to take advantage of many people at auctions. It's about time someone took care of him. Yifei, you can do it. We support you. It wasn't just the auctioneers who thought this. The Chamber of Commerce's president, who was hosting the auction, also deliberately sped up his speech to cheer for Yifei. 40,000 contribution points going once. Going twice. Senior Ma Zai, if you don't increase the price, this Earth Fire Essence will belong to Senior Yifei. 40,000 contribution points just to buy an Earth Fire Essence. Junior Brother Yi, you are indeed rich and overbearing. Unfortunately, these contribution points should be the limit of what you can take out, right? Ma Zai didn't continue bidding. Instead, he estimated that he had already emptied all of Yi Fei's contribution points. He suddenly put away his anger and became arrogant. He even looked at Yi Fei as if he was looking at a fool. Chapter 266. Heavenly Level Boxing Boom. Ma Zai's words once again caused the auction hall to boil over. Just as everyone thought that Ma Zai and Yi Fei were going to have a fierce battle, Ma Zai once again showed everyone what kind of person he was. Not only did he know how to take advantage of others, but his methods of slaughtering people were also much better than Yi Fei's. Not only did he use a little trick to empty all of Yi Fei's contribution points, but he also severely humiliated Yi Fei. Many people let out deep sighs as they discussed in low voices. What a pity! Finally, there was someone who dared to compete with Ma Zai. In the end, he ended up being played by Ma Zai. Ma Zai is indeed not to be trifled with. Not only is he strong, but he is also very good at scheming. It seems that we have to be careful. Don't compete with him for any treasure that Ma Zai fancies. Humph, he's still too young and too impulsive. I thought this Yi Fei had some ability, daring to fight with senior brother Ma Zai. In the end, didn't he end up badly beaten? Some people sighed. There are also those disciples who were trying to curry favor with Ma Zai. They didn't hold back as they mocked Yi Fei. Upon hearing these people's insults, Yi Fei remained calm. It was as if he heard a pack of dogs barking at him. Feng Xinyang, on the other hand, couldn't stand it. After all, she was the former master of the East Sea Prefecture. Of course, she wouldn't tolerate these people's voices. Feng Xinyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. Master, do you want this servant to teach them a lesson? Fourth Mother, don't be impulsive. A group of dogs are barking. Do you think we can follow them back? Yi Fei smiled faintly. He looked at Ma Zai and said, a tier martial art. This is your true objective for coming to the auction. Very good. I'm looking forward to the appearance of that martial art. How dare you? I, Ma Zai, have always done things fairly. I have never bullied anyone here. Am I right? Ma Zai was furious. Even if he had always done this, he would never allow Yi Fei to say such things. Then, Ma Zai looked at the other people in the auction hall and the manager of the Merchant Alliance with a threatening gaze. Everyone who was caught by Ma Zai smiled. Senior Ma Zai, what are you talking about? Who doesn't know that Senior Ma Zai's auctions are the fairest? Right. We all admire Senior Ma Zai greatly. How could we possibly have the nerve to compete with Senior for treasures? Their flattery made Yi Fei want to vomit. He was too lazy to say anything more and walked straight back to the private room. At least you know what's good for you. Humph. Ma Zai thought that Yi Fei was afraid and took the initiative to avoid him. He let out a complacent snort and returned to his private room, waiting for the heaven-class martial art to appear. At this time, the auctioneer brought the earth fire essence that Yi Fei had bid for. Chi Chu looked at Yi Fei and then at the earth fire essence. She suddenly said, Little brother, you spent 40,000 contribution points just to compete with Ma Zai. It's really not worth it. Why don't you agree to accompany me for a day? I can buy this earth fire essence for you. That way, you can compete with Ma Zai. Feng Xinyang had a strange expression when she heard this. Yi Fei suddenly had an impulse to chop someone into pieces. He looked at Chi Chu speechlessly and said, Senior sister, can you stop joking? If I really agree to accompany you, I probably won't be able to find my corpse. It's only 40,000 contribution points. I can still afford to spend such a small amount of money. Yi Fei took out his identity token and directly transferred 40,000 contribution points to the Merchant Union's people. He successfully obtained the Earth Fire Essence. Suddenly, a tender hand reached out and grabbed Yi Fei's arm. Chi Chu also saw that there were a total of 190,000 contribution points left on Yi Fei's identity token. Chi Chu's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when she saw this. She said in shock, 190,000 contribution points. Junior brother Yi, where did you get so many contribution points? Tell big sister, and big sister will consider giving you a kiss. Yi Fei suddenly felt that coming to the auction might have been a very bad decision. Fortunately, the sound of the auction outside helped Yi Fei escape from this awkward situation. Now, the final item of this auction is a complete heaven-tier martial art manual. The starting bid is 30,000 contribution points, and each increment must not be less than 10,000 contribution points. The auction begins now. The manager of the merchant union shouted with all his might, hoping to attract as many people's enthusiasm as possible for the auction. Helplessly, Mazai had already said that he had to obtain this heaven-tier martial art. Many people could only look at that heaven-tier martial art with red eyes. However, not a single person dared to bid for it. Mazai was also very satisfied. He chuckled as he walked out of the private room. He cupped his hands at everyone and said, "Many thanks to everyone for giving me Mazai face. Since no one is competing, then I'll make a bid. 30,000 contribution points for this Tian-tier martial art. I want it. 40,000. Suddenly, a soft voice came from private room number 2. Chi-Chu-Chu walked out and smiled sweetly at Mazai. Senior brother Ma, I'm sorry. This Tian-tier martial art is also very important to this little sister. When he saw Chi-Chu-Chu's beautiful smile, Mazai immediately felt his bones go soft. He quickly put on a gentleman's appearance and said with a smile, "Haha, so junior sister Chu-Chu is also here to bid for this Tian-tier martial art. What a coincidence. Why don't you wait for me to bid for it, and then we can study it together." As he spoke, Mazai's mind was already imagining the scene of him and Chi-Chu-Chu cultivating together under the moonlight. There was only one word in his mind: awesome. Chi-Chu-Chu didn't get angry when she heard this. Instead, she suddenly grabbed the arm of Yi Fei, who was still standing by the door. She smiled at Mazai and shook her head. "Senior brother Mazai, I'm really sorry. However, I hope to be with this little brother. What should we do?" Damn it. Only then did Mazai realize that he had been tricked by Chi-Chu-Chu again. Although it wasn't the first time Chi-Chu-Chu had tricked him, Mazai was still very angry and unhappy, especially when he saw Chi-Chu-Chu's hand grabbing Yifei's arm. Mazai was so angry that his eyes turned red. It was incomparably frightening. However, this was an auction house, and Chi-Chu-Chu wasn't an ordinary person. Mazai had nowhere to vent his anger. He could only suppress his anger and bid in a low voice, 50,000, 60,000. Chi-Chu-Chu refused to show any weakness. Yi Fei could see that Chi-Chu-Chu's goal was the same as Mazai's. They were both here for this Tian-tier martial art. He immediately became curious. If 2 of the top 4 experts in the inner sect valued this Tian-tier martial art so highly, it was obvious that this Tian-tier martial art was definitely not simple. It was very worthy of his bid. 100,000. Yi Fei didn't give Mazai and Chi-Chu-Chu a chance to continue bidding. He immediately called out a number that would shock many super families. 100,000 contribution points. It was equivalent to 100,000 Xian crystals. Chapter 267. Bluff and Bluff 100,000? Senior Yi Fei, are you sure you are willing to bid 100,000? The manager of the Merchant Alliance was a little surprised as he confirmed once again. This number was no small matter. It wasn't that they had never seen nouveau riche cultivators at auctions. However, nouveau riche like Yi Fei, who increased his bid from 60,000 to 100,000 in the blink of an eye, was very rare. Everyone looked at Yi Fei in shock. Yi Fei said calmly, "That's right, 100,000 yuan." Boom! The entire auction house was in an uproar. Originally, everyone thought that Yi Fei had fallen into Mazai's trap and that he had lost all his contribution points. It wasn't until Yi Fei made another bid that everyone realized that Yi Fei was rich and overbearing. He didn't even take Mazai's scheme lightly. Compared to the tycoons of Yi Fei, Mazai's little tricks of seizing and robbing were as laughable as clowns. Chi-Chu-Chu smiled bitterly and let go of Yi Fei's arm. She shook her head and left, saying, "Little brother, you're really boring. Big sister has already sacrificed so much for you, yet you don't even give in to me. What sacrifice? You're the one who's taking advantage of me." Yi Fei was very depressed. From Chi-Chu-Chu's attitude, he realized that he had almost been played by this woman. This Chi-Chu-Chu seemed to be very open, but that was just a trick she used to trick people. She wanted to confuse Yi Fei so that he wouldn't compete with her for this heaven-tier martial art. Unfortunately, Yi Fei's martial heart was incomparably firm. How could he be shaken by Chi Chu Chu's little tricks? Chi Chu Chu stopped pretending and simply turned around to leave. However, the resentful look in her eyes before she left still made Yi Fei extremely depressed. No, that's impossible. Yi Fei, it's impossible for you to have so many contribution points. You're cheating. Ma Zai could not accept this reality. After all, Yi Fei had only joined the inner sect for a short period of time. Even if Yi Fei completed the 7-star flower mission and killed the bone messenger, he would only receive 40,000 contribution points at most. This was also the reason why Ma Zai had planned for Yi Fei to bid for the Earth Fire Essence from the very beginning. Now, Yi Fei had clearly spent 40,000 contribution points. How could he possibly spend another 100,000 contribution points? One had to know that this was a real 100,000 contribution points. Even if he was a horse slaughterer who had been robbing for so many years, he wouldn't be able to take out so many contribution points at once. If you can't afford the price, don't come to the auction in the future to embarrass yourself. If you bid normally, I won't care about you. However, you bid at a low price and even forbid others from bidding. What kind of ability is that? I will bid 100,000. If you have the ability, you can offer a higher price and show me. Yi Fei said coldly. His words resonated with many people. Seeing Yi Fei stand up for him, some inner sect disciples who had been bullied by Ma Zai also joined in the commotion. Senior brother Ma Zai, this is an auction. Fair competition is important here. If you have the ability, you can offer a price higher than 100,000. All of you shut up. Ma Zai was enraged. He only had about 80,000 contribution points on him. Yi Fei's 100,000 contribution points were like a mountain, crushing Ma Zai to the point of suffocation. However, he had to obtain this Tian-class martial art. Suddenly, Ma Zai thought of something and roared at the Merchant Alliance master. What are you standing there for? Immediately check how many contribution points he has. I suspect that he is cheating. He is actually a pauper who can't even afford 10,000 contribution points. The Merchant Alliance must put an end to such matters and give me an explanation. Hearing Ma Zai's words, several inner court disciples who follow Ma Zai also pointed at Yi Fei and hooted. That's right, we don't believe that he has that many contribution points. Let him announce the amount of contribution points he has and we'll be convinced. Otherwise, he'll be cheating and we'll punish him. He'll never be allowed to take a single step into the auction house. Ha ha ha. Never be allowed to step into the auction again? Who do you think you are? Remember, this is the Merchant Alliance. It is not a place for you to mess around. Even if you don't find it embarrassing, I feel embarrassed for you. Yi Fei suddenly laughed out loud. He felt that Ma Zai and these people were simply unreasonable. It was fine if they resorted to trickery, but most importantly, they couldn't afford to lose. They had greatly damaged the reputation of the Holy Land. Yi Fei, shut up. Since you know that this is the Merchant Alliance, you should prove that you have the ability to pay 100,000 contribution points. Otherwise, you're cheating, and the Merchant Alliance can ban you from entering the auction in the future. Manager, am I right? Ma Zai stared at the Merchant Alliance masters with a sinister expression. He was trying to use them to pressure Yi Fei. The Merchant Alliance masters were immediately put in a difficult position. In their hearts, they were on Yi Fei's side. However, Ma Zai was a half-step martial saint, and they could not afford to offend him. Senior Yi Fei, can you announce the amount of contribution points you have? The managers discussed for a while before they finally came to Yi Fei's side and pleaded bitterly. Afraid that Yi Fei would be unhappy, one of them hurriedly said, "Of course, if Senior Yi Fei has no problem with your contribution points, we can guarantee that we will give you a 20% discount on any treasures you bid for in the future." 20% discount? Yi Fei was originally a little unhappy with these Merchant Alliance masters for bullying the weak and fearing the strong. However, when they mentioned the 20% discount, his eyes lit up. He only needed to spend 80,000 contribution points to bid for this Tian tier martial art. This condition was not bad. Sure, but I have another condition. If I can take out enough contribution points, then prove that Ma Zai wrongly accused me and deliberately caused trouble. I want you to guarantee that you will not allow Ma Zai to take a step into the auction again." Yi Fei said coldly. These words made Ma Zai so angry that the veins on his forehead popped out. "Yi Fei, what did you say? You're just a piece of trash in the 7th stage of the martial ancestor realm. You don't even have the right to speak to me. You dare to forbid me from entering the auction? What, are you afraid? Why would I, Ma Zai, be afraid of a piece of trash like you?" Ma Zai revealed a look of disdain. Yi Fei was not angry when he heard this, but his face suddenly darkened. He said to Ma Zai, "If you aren't afraid, then why are you barking like a dog? If you want to check my contribution points, then you have to pay a sufficient price." "Ma Zai, let me ask you one question. Do you dare?" Shua. Hundreds of pairs of eyes in the auction house all looked at Ma Zai. Ma Zai's expression changed when he saw the crowd's gaze. He could not refuse because it would greatly damage his reputation. Besides, Ma Zai did not believe that a newcomer like Yi Fei could take out so many contribution points in one go. Hence, Ma Zai said with an incomparably furious voice, "All right, if you don't have enough contribution points, I want you to break one of your arms and crawl out of here." "Do you dare? Break one of my arms?" "Ma Zai, you are really vicious. Unfortunately, from now on, you will be kicked out of the auction house forever. You will never be able to take a step in again." Yi Fei sneered and very happily agreed to Ma Zai's request. This caused Ma Zai's heart to suddenly become a little chaotic. Could it be that this kid really had so many contribution points on him? How is that possible? He was just a newcomer. It was impossible for him to obtain such a large amount of contribution points. Chapter 268. Chapter 268, Make You Stare and Cry. "Senior Yi Fei, please head to the auction booth." Seeing that both parties had come to an agreement, in order to show fairness, the two business alliance managers immediately walked towards Yi Fei and led Yi Fei to the auction venue. Without any hesitation, Yi Fei happily followed him. Of course, Ma Zai also followed him with a gloomy face. Another two business alliance managers worked together to lift up a huge formation crystal wall. There was even a huge slot on it. They explained, "Everyone, in order to ensure fairness, we will display Senior Yi Fei and Senior Ma Zai's contribution points on the crystal wall. We will allow everyone to bear witness. Seniors, who will go first?" "I'll go first. At the same time, I'll let a certain pauper know who he can offend and who he can only look up to for the rest of his life." Ma Zai was incomparably pleased with himself. Over the years, he had accumulated a large number of contribution points by resorting to trickery and robbing at auctions. He didn't believe that his years of accumulation couldn't compare to Yi Fei's in a few months. Crack! In front of everyone, Ma Zai inserted his identity medallion into the groove. The entire crystal wall instantly activated, and a series of shocking numbers appeared on the screen. 83,709 points. Hiss! Gasps could be heard everywhere. Although they knew that Ma Zai wasn't a good person and had obtained a lot of contribution points over the years, when they saw this number, many of the super families felt ashamed. Ma Zai's wealth alone was more than the total wealth of a super family. As expected of Senior Ma Zai, you actually have so many contribution points. Whoever marries him will definitely die of happiness. Isn't that so? I heard that Senior Ma Zai is ranked 3rd in the Sacred Grounds Mountain River list. Many of the female disciples looked at the string of numbers and then at Ma Zai. Their eyes had already turned into pink hearts. This made Ma Zai feel very comfortable. This was the kind of shocking effect he wanted. "Do you see that? Pauper, this is my contribution points. Yi Fei, you're still too young, too inexperienced. You want to compete with me, Ma Zai? You're still 50 years too young." Ma Zai was pleased with himself. Under the admiring gazes of the female disciples, his nose was already pointing towards the sky. "Clown, you're so happy with just this little amount of contribution points. You're truly a frog in a well. You're not fit to be ranked 4th in the sacred ground. You're a disgrace to the sacred ground," Yi Fei said coldly. Under the furious gaze of the latter, he walked towards the crystal wall. Crack! Yi Fei also inserted his identity token into the groove, and the crystal wall's formation activated once more. Boom! Following which, a blinding light appeared on the screen. 195,000 points. This number caused the entire auction hall to tremble. Everyone was so shocked that their hearts almost stopped beating. At this time, those super families were not just ashamed to show their faces. They were so ashamed that they wanted to commit suicide on the spot. Just based on this incomparably terrifying number, these families would not be able to accumulate it at all unless they worked hard for hundreds of years. If this amount of contribution points appeared on some powerful intersect elder, everyone could still understand. But this terrifying amount of contribution points appeared on a new disciple who had just joined the sacred ground for less than a year. That was extremely terrifying. Mazai was completely dumbfounded. A total of 190,000 contribution points. A new disciple? Where did he get so many contribution points? This is definitely impossible. This must be a fake. Damn it, he's just a new disciple who had just joined the sacred ground for a few months. How did he get so many contribution points? I know, there must be something wrong with the crystal wall. Immediately check the array of the crystal wall. This was the only reason Ma Zai could think of for Yi Fei to have such an exaggerated number. The two managers of the Merchant Alliance also hurried over with strange expressions. They looked at the crystal wall and checked it. Their expressions immediately revealed shock and confusion. The array of the crystal wall is intact. There are no problems. The Merchant Alliance acknowledges that Senior Yi Fei has 195,000 contribution points. If no one offers a higher price, then this heaven-class upper-level martial art, 7 Killing Fist, will ultimately belong to Senior Yi Fei. The two managers were expressionless as they announced the results of the competition. This result made Ma Zai so angry that he vomited blood on the spot. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that Yi Fei would have so many contribution points on him. The funny thing was that just a moment ago, Ma Zai tried to flaunt his pitiful amount of contribution points in front of Yi Fei. He had even mocked Yi Fei for being a pauper. It would have been fine if Yi Fei didn't have so many contribution points. The key was that 190,000 contribution points were enough to leave Ma Zai in the dust. The funny thing was that Ma Zai had actually dared to flaunt his contribution points in front of Yi Fei. This slap in the face was too ruthless and painful. Ma Zai wasn't the only one who was dumbfounded. He stood rooted to the spot, not knowing how to react. Many people in the auction house were also dumbfounded. They were stunned, shocked, and dumbfounded. Many young girls cast admiring gazes at Yi Fei. Many super family clans cast respectful gazes at Yi Fei. No one bid. No one dared to bid. What a joke. With such a tycoon standing in front of them, who would have the guts to compete with Yi Fei? In the end, the manager of the Merchant Union even skipped the bidding segment. He ignored Ma Zai's extremely ugly expression and respectfully handed the 7 Killing Fist manual to Yi Fei. Senior Yi, this is the heaven-class upper-grade martial art, the 7 Killing Fist. Please check it. If Senior needs anything in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. If the Merchant Union could do it, we won't refuse. Clearly, after seeing that a new disciple like Yi Fei had such shocking wealth, the Merchant Union had already treated Yi Fei as the most distinguished guest that they couldn't afford to offend. As for Ma Zai, no one had the time to look at him now. The young girls' gazes were all fixed on Yi Fei. Their gazes were fiery and bold. There were even people who sent voice transmissions to invite Senior Brother Yi to her boudoir when he was free at night. Yi Fei was very depressed. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have boasted. Hence, Yi Fei could only forcefully ignore the resentful gazes of the young girls. He turned to look at the ashen-faced Ma Zai and said coldly, "Senior Brother Ma Zai, it looks like you've lost. I hope you don't forget your words. From today onwards, you are not allowed to take a step into the auction house." Puffed. Yi Fei didn't say this, but Ma Zai was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground. He felt like his lungs and stomach were about to explode. Even his brain was about to explode. In the end, Ma Zai was so angry that his hair stood on end. He glared fiercely at Yi Fei and roared, Yi Fei, are you really going to be so ruthless? That's right. I'm going to be ruthless, just like how you framed me. Yi Fei said coldly. All right, damn it. Just you wait. I'll show you in the intersect competition. Ma Zai turned around and walked away angrily. His footsteps were trembling with anger. One had to know that Ma Zai had been taking advantage of the auction house all these years. He had plundered a large amount of treasures. Now, Yi Fei was forbidding him from taking a step into the auction house. This was undoubtedly cutting off Ma Zai's source of income. How could Ma Zai not be angry and heartbroken? Now, Ma Zai finally understood how Huang Shu felt after being chased out of the mission hall. Chapter 269. Chapter 269 to get together, but no matter how angry Ma Zai was, there was nothing he could do. An auction like this was a competition of money. His contribution points were not as high as Yi Fei's, so he could only leave the auction with his tail between his legs and never set foot here again. As for Yi Fei, not only did he become a VIP at the auction, but he also obtained a heaven-rank upper-grade martial art. For this martial art to be able to cause Chi Chu Chu and Ma Zai, two of the top 4 inner disciples, to fight over it, there must be something extraordinary about it. It seems that I have to study it properly when I return. After obtaining the treasure and teaching Ma Zai a lesson, Yi Fei finally felt a lot more at ease. Although there were still a few more auctions and some precious treasures to be auctioned off, Yi Fei no longer had any interest in participating. Yi Fei declined the Alliance Master's invitation to stay. He walked out of the auction house and went directly into the small world where the Taishan Holy Land was. Then he said to Feng Xinyang, Feng Xinyang, you have seen my situation. I have many opponents in the inner sect. Are you sure you want to follow me? Feng Xinyang was over 40 years old, but she still had a graceful bearing. It could be seen that when she was young, she was also a beauty. Hearing this, she smiled and said, wherever a martial artist goes, there are no battles. Yi Fei, I have high hopes for you. I also want to continue following you. All right then. Since Feng Xinyang was willing to take the risk, Yi Fei didn't say anything else. He brought Feng Xinyang back to the inner sect residence. Outside, he saw 2 people waiting there. If it wasn't Wang Bai and Luo Shi, who else could it be? When Yi Fei saw that Luo, she was no longer an outer sect disciple, but an inner sect disciple, his eyes lit up. He walked up happily and gave both of them a bear hug. Luo Shi, you finally joined the inner sect. Hee, it's all thanks to Brother Fei for helping me tame the spiritual eagle. Now I have completely formed a life and death contract with the spiritual eagle and successfully cultivated the acquired beast body. Even my strength has increased to the 6th level of the martial ancestor realm. Luo Shi was very proud and looked at Yi Fei with gratitude. As a result, he couldn't take his eyes off him. Brother Fei, your current realm is... Luo Shi was shocked to discover that even though he had increased to the 6th level of the martial ancestor realm, he still couldn't see Yi Fei's strength. Sorry, I've increased my cultivation. I've increased to the martial ancestor realm. Yi Fei. When Yi Fei saw that Luo Shi had joined the inner sect, he was secretly happy. However, when he saw Wang Bai's unshakable martial master cultivation, he felt like vomiting blood. Speaking of which, how did Wang Bai cultivate? He had been in the inner sect for a few months, but his cultivation hadn't increased at all. Wang Bai's temperament had changed a lot after not seeing him for a while. His body was filled with an otherworldly calmness. He smiled and waved his hand. No rush, no rush. As long as I'm handsome, I can instantly kill all the trash. As for my cultivation, it's enough to increase it occasionally. After speaking, Wang Bai saw that Feng Xinyang was present. He quickly took out a small mirror and carefully combed his 4 messy eyebrows. Yi Fei suddenly had the urge to kick this guy. Luo Shi covered his face and quickly walked to the side, pretending that he didn't know Wang Bai. Feng Xinyang was incomparably embarrassed, because at this moment, Wang Bai had suddenly appeared in front of her and very seriously pointed at his eyebrows and said, "This beautiful auntie, look at my eyebrows. Aren't they handsome?" Actually, I won't hide it from you. I think you look very familiar, like my sister who went missing many years ago. Bang! Yifei finally couldn't bear it anymore. Together with Luo Shi, he raised his leg and kicked Wang Bai. However, Wang Bai seemed to be prepared and quickly dodged to the side, causing Yifei and Luo Shi's attacks to miss. Yifei was very surprised. This Wang Bai's movement technique wasn't simple. After all, he was his good brother. Yifei didn't think much about it and quickly pulled Wang Bai over. He introduced them to each other. Xinjiang, this is Luo Shi, my good brother. Over there is Wang Bai. You can just ignore him. For the record, I'm actually their big brother. They are under my protection. By the way, you really do look like my missing sister. Wang Bai was still unwilling to give up. He continued to comb his 4 eyebrows coquettishly. Luo, she was about to vomit blood. Yifei was also speechless for a while. He then introduced Feng Xinjiang's identity to everyone. Of course, Yifei wouldn't say that Feng Xinjiang was his servant. Instead, he vaguely told the two that Feng Xinjiang was one of his elders who temporarily came to seek refuge with him. Luo Shi's face became solemn. Wang Bai also stopped messing around. After entering the room, Yifei suddenly thought of something and asked Luo Shi, Luo Shi, since you've joined the intersect, will you also participate in the intersect competition this time? Luo Shi's face turned bitter. He shook his head and said, with my little cultivation, I'll just be looking for a beating if I participate. I'm not as abnormal as Brother Fei. Wang Bai patted Luo Shi's shoulder and comforted him. Don't be shy. Go bravely. If you meet an opponent you can't afford to offend, just say my name. I guarantee that the other party will be scared witless. Luo Shi was speechless at Wang Bai's narcissism. Yifei was also very speechless. If they were to talk about the most annoying person in the Holy Land, Wang Bai would definitely be on the list. If Luo Shi said Wang Bai's name, he would probably be beaten up even more. However, the two of them were his good friends after all. Yifei would not allow them to be bullied. After thinking about it, Yifei solemnly took out a large handful of heaven-level pills and handed them to Luo Shi. Luo Shi, this is a heaven-level pill, the J blood pill. Take it and cultivate well. Try to increase your strength before the competition starts. When the time comes, we'll participate in the intersect competition together. Wang Bai, this is for you. Yifei did not favor one over the other. Considering Wang Bai's terrible realm, he deliberately gave Wang Bai 5 more jade blood pills. Wang Bai, take advantage of this time to break through to the martial ancestor realm and then pass the intersect assessment. That way, we'll be able to look after each other. Hee brother, to tell you the truth, a talent like me would be fought over by any holy land. What I lack is not cultivation, but beauty, and so on. I need to maintain my glorious image as the most handsome person in the world. Do you understand? Wang Bai was dismissive of the J blood pills. He even rubbed his fingers at Yifei with an expression that said, you understand. Indeed, Yifei understood. Chapter 270. The Return of the Heroes, however, after Wang Bai's reminder, Yifei remembered that he still had a large amount of royal jelly. Although it couldn't increase one's cultivation, it had the same effect as a martial king. Yifei immediately took out the royal jelly. This is the royal jelly of the ancient demon king. Seeing Yifei take out a large beehive, Feng Xinjiang was shocked and her eyes turned red. Yifei could understand Feng Xinjiang's feelings. After all, when a woman heard about something that could preserve one's youth, it would be strange if she didn't go crazy. Especially for someone like Feng Xinjiang who had reached a certain age, this kind of thing was even more desirable. Xinjiang, since you like it, then this bucket is for you. Yifei smiled and handed over a beehive to Feng Xinjiang. After thinking for a while, he simply took out 5 heaven-level pills and gave them all to Feng Xinjiang. This action gave Feng Xinjiang a fright. Whether it was the royal jelly of the ancient demon bees or the heaven-level pills, they were all luxuries that Feng Xinjiang couldn't even imagine in the eastern Siwu province. In the end, Yi Fei didn't even blink an eye and gave them all to her. Feng Xinyang's eyes suddenly turned red. She looked at Yi Fei with incomparable gratitude and said, "Now this servant knows why that old thing Tsang Fan risked his life to help you protect your family, Yi." "Thank you, master." Feng Xinyang's happy expression was almost the same as Wang Bai's. She didn't care much about the heaven-level jade blood pill, but hugged the bucket of royal jelly tightly. She immediately sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the energy of the royal jelly. Seeing this, Yi Fei was sweating profusely. "Is this necessary? I didn't expect the royal jelly's magic power to be so great." "It's not just great. Brother Fei, you don't know. I heard that the top 10 inner disciples, Yang Xiao, also got a large amount of royal jelly and attracted many female disciples to ask for it." Luo, she told him what the spiritual eagle on his shoulder had heard. Speaking of today's inner disciples, there were 3 things that were the most popular. Firstly, Huang Shu failed to frame Yi Fei. Instead, he was banned from entering the mission hall for life. It was said that after Huang Shi left, he was so angry that he cursed at the air for 2 hours. After that, he directly went to the peak of the true inheritors and cried to his elder sister. The second hot topic was Yi Fei and Ma Zai's extravagant actions at the auction. Not only did they make a huge amount of money, but they also caused Ma Zai to suffer a huge loss. Just like Huang Shu, he would never be able to step into an auction again. The last hot news was that Yang Xiao carried a large amount of royal jelly and publicly announced to the inner sanctum that any senior and junior sisters who wanted the royal jelly could talk to him and get the royal jelly. If he didn't have the time, he could let him touch her. At this point, Luo Shi's expression became extremely strange. This was because 2 of the 3 major events that shook the inner sect were also caused by Yi Fei. Even the last event seemed to have something to do with Yi Fei. After hearing Luo Shi's words, Yi Fei's face couldn't be any darker. He cursed together with Wang Bai, "Yang Xiao, that bitch." Yi Fei was simply speechless at Yang Xiao's actions. Wang Bai was unhappy that his handsome brother's limelight had been stolen by someone else. Wang Bai immediately stretched out his hand to Yi Fei and said, "Brother, give me 10 buckets first. I'll also go and meet that Yang Xiao and Luo Shi. Also, let that bird fly out and help me spread the word that I also have a large amount of royal jelly here. No matter if it's inner or outer sanctum junior sisters, they can come and get it. However, it must be under the age of 18. If it's over that age, then there's no need to come." As the inner sect competition gradually approached, the entire inner sect became lively. It wasn't just Yi Fei and Yang Xiao who were celebrating. In a fire pool somewhere in the outer sect, Gu Man sat in it and let the raging fire burn his body. Gu Man's body turned red and black, then burnt. This kind of pain was enough to make any warrior with a strong mental state collapse. However, Gu Man had persisted in there for a full 100 days. Not only had his body not been burned to a crisp by the fire, but as his flesh and blood were destroyed and reborn, a faint and desolate aura had appeared on Gu Man's body. Seeing this scene, Elder Xianmo was so happy that she let out a long laugh. She waved her hands and encouraged Gu Man, "Gu Man, hold on. There are 8 more days. In 8 more days, your barbarian body bloodline will be completely awakened. Even if you can't reach the level of the ancient barbarian body, your physical defense will be 10 times stronger than before. I'm very optimistic that you'll pass the intersect exam, enter the intersect, and participate in the intersect competition. This time, Iguman won't lose again. I'm the prince of the barbarians. One day, I'll become the king of the barbarians and stand at the peak of this world. Yi Fei, just you wait. Green hills and clear waters, standing aloof from worldly affairs. This was the deepest part of the inner sect on a majestic mountain peak. On the mountain peak sat an old man with one eye. The old man's eyes were turbid, but his chi was like a treasured blade that could be unsheathed at any time, killing enemies from 1,000 miles away. At that moment, the old man was watching a heroic black-robed young man practice his blade. After watching for a total of 6 hours, the old man was unable to find any flaws, nor did he need any pointers. The old man was extremely satisfied. He nodded his head towards the black-robed young man who was keeping his blade and asked, "Yin Bei, how long have you been learning the blade under me?" Reporting to master, "It's been 10 years." The black-robed young man's body was tall and straight, his eyes releasing a ray of light. It was obviously the eye blade that he had comprehended after training his blade techniques to the extreme. Seeing that, the old man was even more satisfied. He nodded his head and said, 10 years. I have nothing else to teach you. Go down the mountain. This time, I'll make an exception and let you participate in the mountain river list competition. If you don't get in the top 10, don't come back to see me. Top 10? Master, your words are laughable. In the entire inner sect, other than Jingwu Shou, that pervert I fear. In the entire inner sect, who can stop me? This time, my goal is not to be in the top 10, but to be number 1. Bang! The shocking saber intent tore through the sky and shattered the clouds. Even the old man was shocked. 40% saber intent. As expected of a super genius with a saber body. Yin Bei, go ahead and do it. This low-grade artifact, the Yinling's saber, will help you win. After the old man finished speaking, he threw out a treasure blade and stabbed it deeply into the rock he was sitting on. He then took a few steps, as though he was ascending a staircase. Step by step, he walked into the clouds. And at the same time that the old man disappeared, a rumbling sound suddenly resonated throughout the entire Taishan city. 3,000 tiger guards, riding on flood dragon horses, wearing cold steel helmets and waving flags, escorted a young man from the royal family and quickly entered the city. The young man's face was like jade and his eyebrows were thick. His entire body was filled with a terrifying, murderous aura. Behind him, there was a dead dragon that was hung high on the flagpole, causing many martial arts grandmasters to feel a chill in their hearts. The 10th prince has arrived. All unrelated people, leave immediately. The 3,000 tiger guards shouted together, their voices shaking the clouds. The terrifying killing intent shook a few martial grandmaster realm elders, their faces changing color, but they had no choice but to leave. And in the middle of the road, there was a person carrying a heavy stone lock. One step at a time, with great difficulty, he walked towards Taishan's sacred lands, constantly moving, ignoring the 10th prince and the 3,000 tiger guards who were quickly approaching him. Chapter 271. The 8th level of the Martial Grandmaster Realm Boom. The huge stone lock was waved, causing the void to emit a sharp screech. The dragon horse he was riding was, of course, smashed into a pile of mud. Even the Wuzong general who was waving the whip fell off the horse pathetically. The momentum of the 3,000 tigers suddenly stagnated, and then a strong, murderous aura gathered on the young man with the stone lock like a whirlwind and cold lightning. The 10th prince was also surprised. When he saw the man with the stone lock in the middle of the road, he became a little wary. He stopped his men and stepped forward. "It's Sure Feng. I didn't expect you to come back. I heard that you went to the polar region of the North Sea to train. Is this the result of your training?" Looking at the heavy stone lock on Sure Feng, the 10th prince was a little puzzled. Sure Feng looked at the 10th prince coldly and did not speak. He just dragged the heavy stone lock and continued to move toward the entrance of the small world of the Holy Land. 10th prince, this Sure Feng is too arrogant. He actually dares to ignore you and block our path. The injured Wuzong general angrily said as he crawled up from the ground. A touch of displeasure flashed in the 10th prince's eyes, and then he shook his head. "Forget it. Sure Feng is not wrong. We have come back too brightly this time. You should know that there is always someone better than you. You can leave now. I will return to the Holy Land by myself. Soldiers, you have worked hard. We swear allegiance to the 10th prince. The 10th prince has won the first battle. He will definitely be first in the Intersect Grand Competition." The 3,000 tigers roared again, and their voices shook Taishan City. Then, led by several generals, they quickly left. Many of the aristocratic families in Taishan City were also shocked. Speaking of which, the kingdom of Taiwu has been getting stronger and stronger recently. These 3,000 tigers alone are enough to destroy many countries. That's right. The 10th prince is the strongest genius of the kingdom of Taiwu. He has not yet joined the Holy Land, but he has already been valued by a powerful elder in the inner sect. Maybe the 10th prince can really take first place in the inner sect grand competition this time. First place in the competition, huh? Hearing this, Sure Foam, who was walking in front, sneered. He did not look back. He just dragged the heavy stone lock and continued to move forward. The time spent together was always short. As the inner sect grand competition approached, other than Wang Bai, who was leisurely strolling around, Yi Fei and Luo, she had to do their best for the upcoming intersect grand competition. Participating in such a tournament would not only allow one to encounter a large number of experts, but it was also said that the higher one's ranking was, the more generous the rewards one would receive. Of course, Yi Fei would not miss the opportunity to obtain a large amount of cultivation resources. After the reunion, Yi Fei arranged Feng Xinyang's residence and returned to his room. The first thing he did was to take out the earth fire essence that he had obtained from the auction. That was a red, flame-like liquid. It was scalding hot to the touch, and one could even see astonishing spiritual energy. Along with the heat, it spread into the air. Just taking a breath of the air was enough to make one feel warm all over. The indestructible sword's soul in his body became restless, as if it wanted to devour the earth fire essence in one gulp. As expected of the earth fire essence, even if I had to spend 40,000 contribution points, it would be worth it. Yi Fei sighed. He would not let the indestructible sword's soul absorb the earth fire essence so easily. He was prepared to use such a treasure to increase his own strength. Yi Fei was currently at the 7th level of the martial ancestor realm. With such a speed of improvement, he was considered outstanding among the ordinary inner sect disciples. But compared to the top 10 inner sect disciples, he was still lacking. For example, Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, who were around the same age as Yi Fei. But their strength was already at the 10th level of the martial ancestor realm. After a period of closed-door training, the two of them had a high possibility of breaking through to the half-step martial ancestor realm. But even so, the two of them were only ranked 9th and 10th in the Mountain River list. Then the geniuses in front of them would have terrifying realms and strengths. Seems like in this period of time, I have to quickly raise my cultivation. Not to mention the half-step martial ancestor realm. The 10th level of the martial ancestor realm is still possible. Only then can I fight with the top 10 experts of the Mountain River list. Yi Fei made up his mind. When he took out the earth fire essence, he took out another item, the blood jade golden lotus. He had obtained it by chance in the 7 Treasures Forest. The blood jade golden lotus itself was not much, but if he could use the earth fire essence to accelerate its ripening, the blood jade golden lotus would be like the 100-year dragon fruit. It could help martial artists break through realms quickly. The only difference was that the 100-year dragon fruit was only effective for martial masters. But the combination of the blood jade golden lotus and the earth fire essence was very effective for martial ancestor realm experts. He carefully took out the blood jade golden lotus and placed it on top of the earth fire essence. The blood jade golden lotus suddenly released a blood red light barrier, absorbing all of the earth fire essence's energy. Now is the time. Seeing that the blood jade golden lotus had already started to absorb the earth fire essence and was starting to grow, Yi Fei did not dare to delay. He immediately focused all of his attention and used the method he learned from Yang Xiao to accelerate the ripening of the blood jade golden lotus. 2 hours. 4 hours. 6 hours. The blood jade golden lotus's growth is really slow. If this goes on, the true essence in my body might not be able to support it. Yi Fei felt helpless. It was easy to convert spirit qi into true essence, but to convert true essence in a higher grade spirit qi, the consumption was extremely high. Even with the Devil Emperor scripture, after accelerating the ripening for 6 hours, Yi Fei felt that he could not take it anymore. Luckily, he was rich and overbearing. Realizing that his true essence was not enough, Yi Fei quickly took out a large number of spirit crystals from his spatial bag. As he absorbed them, he continued to accelerate the ripening of the spirit herbs. 3 days passed very quickly. Boom! After absorbing the earth fire essence and sufficient spirit chi, the bloodlight shield of the blood jade golden lotus suddenly cracked. Then a blood-colored lotus bloomed, filled with a mysterious beauty. As Yi Fei continued to transfer spirit chi, the blood jade golden lotus bloomed brighter and brighter. Finally, in the middle of the flower, a red, gem-like lotus seed appeared. This is the one. After consuming it, I will be able to break through the bottleneck of the martial way and increase my cultivation level. Without hesitation, Yi Fei picked up the lotus seed and placed it in his mouth. Boom! The moment the lotus seed entered his mouth, it melted into a warm current that flowed into Yi Fei's limbs and bones. Yi Fei could even clearly feel that his bones, flesh, and blood were cleansed by this warm current. Large amounts of impurities were melted and turned into a black substance that was expelled from his body. At the same time, Yi Fei's dantian became exceptionally full. It was filled with a shocking amount of energy, and his dantian became more and more swollen. Finally, with a loud boom, it was as if a dam that had accumulated a large amount of water had suddenly collapsed. Everything happened naturally. Yi Fei had broken through to martial ancestor realm 8. However, Yi Fei was not satisfied with this. It could even be said that he was extremely disappointed. Why is it only martial ancestor realm 8? With this bit of strength, it won't even be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of others during the intersect grand competition. No, I must continue to break through. Chapter 272. Chapter 272, the date of the great competition, therefore. Yi Fei began to cultivate crazily in the following days. This was also the first time since he joined the Holy Land that he had truly gone into closed-door cultivation. Taking advantage of this time, he finally had some time to clean up the chaotic true essence in his body. Although the sky-swallowing style is powerful, it's a pity that compared to the undying sword soul, the sky-swallowing style swallows Zhen Yuan with chaotic attributes. The reason why I haven't been able to break through quickly is not only because of the quality of my dantian, but also because of the large amount of chaotic Zhen Yuan in my body. After all, different cultivation techniques would result in different quintessential essence attributes. For example, the Devil Emperor Sutra that Yi Fei cultivated had a quintessential essence attribute that leaned towards the tyrannical side of the Devil Tao. However, it was impossible for the people killed by the sky-swallowing move to cultivate the Devil Emperor Sutra. The quintessential essence that entered Yi Fei's body was definitely different. In a short period of time, a large amount of quintessential essence had helped Yi Fei quickly break through. However, when quintessential essence of different attributes accumulated to a certain extent, it would also make it more difficult for Yi Fei to break through to a higher realm. It seems like cultivators should focus on cultivating one type of true essence, which will allow them to break through realms faster. That's what it means to get rid of the impurities and retain the essence. Every cultivation technique and martial skill has a weakness. Even the great Emperor sword art is no exception. It's no wonder that the Devil Emperor chose to create his own devouring sword intent after obtaining the heaven-devouring style. Then, there was a problem. If the Demon Emperor could comprehend his own devouring sword intent from the devouring sky style, what kind of sword intent could Yi Fei comprehend? Yi Fei could not help but feel a headache coming on. He revealed a bitter smile. Indeed, on the path of a cultivator, the higher one goes, the more insignificant one feels. With my current strength, there is no need to think about creating an original sword intent. However, if I make the best use of my time and refine all the impurities in my body, it should not be a problem. Boom! Closing his eyes, Yi Fei began to madly cultivate the Demon Imperial Sutra. This time, however, he did not use it to raise his cultivation base or break through. He purely used the Demon Imperial Sutra to forcefully expel all the impurities in his body. During this process, Yi Fei also gained a deeper understanding of the Demon Imperial Sutra's power. As expected of a martial art cultivated by an emperor, the Devil Emperor is truly a genius. It turns out that the Devil Emperor has already considered the flaws of the Devouring Sky style. This Devil Emperor scripture is an emperor-level cultivation technique created by the Devil Emperor to counter the Devouring Sky style. The more Yi Fei cultivated the Demon Emperor Sutra, the more he could feel how profound the Demon Emperor's comprehension of the martial way and the heaven-devouring style was. As it turned out, he didn't need to expel all the various kinds of true essence from his body. That would not only reduce Yi Fei's own true essence, but in the worst case, it might even cause his cultivation to drop. In response to this situation, the Demon Emperor had clearly provided the best solution in the Demon Emperor Sutra, which was to use the tyrannical power of the Demon Emperor Sutra to suppress the heterogeneous true Yuan. Then, he would use the devouring will of the martial way to gradually devour all of the heterogeneous true essence and convert it using the Devil Emperor Sutra. This way, Yi Fei would not have to worry about the different types of quintessential essence clashing with each other. He could even convert the heterogeneous quintessential essence into the pure quintessential essence required by the Devil Emperor Sutra. Not only would it not affect his strength, but he could also use the quintessential essence to quickly break through his bottleneck. So that's how it is. The Devil Emperor Sutra is indeed wonderful. I'm really stupid. Why didn't I think of it before? It's all the fault of this cheap master of the Devil Emperor. He didn't even warn me about such an important hidden danger. Yi Fei patted his head hard, as if he had just realized something. Of course, Yi Fei also knew that he couldn't blame the Demon Emperor. As long as he cultivated seriously for a period of time, he would be able to comprehend these questions on his own without any guidance. It was just that Yi Fei had always had a lot of things to do. He had never had the chance to cultivate in seclusion like now. Thus, it was only now that Yi Fei understood the true essence of the Devil Emperor Sutra, since he had found the key to resolving the heterogeneous quintessential essence. It was in the Devil Emperor's Sutra. Immediately, Yi Fei activated the Devil Emperor's Sutra again. At the same time, he used his comprehension of the will of devouring to frantically devour and refine the heterogeneous quintessential essence in his body. Just like that, another 10 days passed. Boom! Yi Fei, who was cultivating, felt his dantian suddenly tremble. It was like a black hole had already converted all the heterogeneous quintessential essence into the quintessential essence required by the Devil Emperor Sutra. When all this conversion was completed, Yi Fei immediately felt the quintessential essence in his body start to condense to a high degree. In the end, it seemed like it was going to form a spiraling cyclone in his dantian. Yi Fei could not help but reveal a look of pleasant surprise. It's actually about to condense into a cyclone. Doesn't that mean that if I work a little harder, I might be able to break through to the 10th layer martial ancestor realm? Yi Fei successfully refined the heterogeneous quintessential essence in his body and resolved the bottleneck of his breakthrough. The rich quintessential essence easily broke through his own martial Tao barrier, allowing him to reach the 9th layer martial ancestor realm. However, after reaching this level, Yi Fei did not intend to continue breaking through. More haste, less speed. Even though he could still rely on the medicinal pills in his hand to continue breaking through quickly, the foundation of a cultivator was important. However, when it came to cultivation, one's cultivation level was important. The foundation was even more important. If one kept relying on external forces to break through, it would cause one's foundation to be unstable. In the best-case scenario, one might suffer from cultivation deviation. In the worst-case scenario, it would increase the difficulty of breaking through to the next realm. I'll take a break for now and continue breaking through. There is still some time before the intersect grand competition. I can make use of this time to stabilize my foundation while cultivating that Tian ranked fist technique. 7 Murderous Fist. This was the Tian ranked martial art that Yi Fei had obtained at the auction. It was said that this martial art was the core fist technique of the ancient sect, the Seven Kill sect. It was a heaven-ranked, high-grade martial art. In the entire sacred land, it was considered a rare martial art. This was also the reason why Chi Chu Chu and Ma Zai wanted to compete for it. It was different from the present. In the ancient era, sects were flourishing. There were countless powerful sections. Even the current sacred land was a part of the ancient sects that had broken away from the ancient sections. The sacred land itself had only inherited a small portion of the essence of the ancient sections. Yi Fei had also heard that outside of the Tianwu continent, the ancient sects had not disappeared. They had always existed. Only the geniuses of the entire continent could join such a place. Now that Yi Fei was fortunate enough to come across a martial art from an ancient sect, he naturally would not miss this opportunity. He had to properly study it and increase his own combat trump cards. Time flew by quickly as Yi Fei continuously studied the Seven Kill Fist. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. On this day, a loud bell suddenly rang throughout the entire Taishan sacred land. It rang throughout the entire inner sect and outer sect. This sound wave even penetrated the small world of the sacred land and shook all of Taishan city. All the disciples who were still cultivating were startled awake. The elders of the inner and outer sect who heard the bell were also shocked. The inner sect grand competition is starting so soon? Yi Fei also woke up from his cultivation. He smiled bitterly and cursed himself for forgetting the time. He had actually forgotten that his Devourer's sword had been destroyed. Without the Devourer's sword, his swordsmanship would be greatly reduced. At that time, how could he participate in the competition? Could he rely on the 7 kill fist that he had just learned? Chapter 273. Mountain River lists the bell of the Holy Land was not rung easily. Every time the bell rang, there were only two possibilities. The first was that the Holy Land was facing a huge crisis. The second was that the Holy Land was about to hold a grand ceremony. But no matter what it was, as a disciple, the first thing they did when they heard the bell ring was to immediately rush to the place where the bell rang, gather, and wait for the elder's orders. Although he was a little depressed, Yi Fei could only give up on the idea of finding a good sword at the last minute. Anyway, let's go and participate in the first round of the inner disciple competition first. There were many inner disciples in the Sanctum of Sages, and it would take a lot of time and effort to judge them one by one. Furthermore, the elders of the Sanctum of Sages didn't have the time and energy to judge them one-on-one. Therefore, before the start of the inner disciple grand competition, all the disciples who wanted to participate in the competition would receive a notice that detailed the rules of the competition and various things to take note of. For example, when the bell rang, the participating disciples must immediately rush to the Holy Land's competition venue to register and draw lots. The inner sect competition was also divided into 2 rounds. The first was the arena free-for-all, which was open to all inner sect disciples, and the second was the one-on-one ranking battle, which only the top 10 disciples could participate in. Yi Fei unfurled his golden rock wings and flew in the direction of the inner sect grand competition as he recalled the things he needed to take note of in his mind. Looking over, the sky was filled with the figures of inner disciples flapping their true chi wings as they hurried on their way. The true chi wings of various colors were dazzling to the eyes. This was especially true for the female disciples. Their true chi wings were so beautiful and complicated that they dazzled Yi Fei. However, although these people's true chi wings are beautiful, most of them are just flashy and impractical. There are only a few disciples who truly possess flying martial skills. In terms of speed, there are even fewer disciples who can match my golden rock wings. As Yi Fei rushed towards the location of the large competition, he secretly compared himself to the inner disciples around him. Perhaps they would encounter each other in the arena. Screech! Suddenly, the cry of an eagle was heard. It pierced through the clouds and instantly spread its wings. It flew to Yi Fei's side. "Ha ha! Brother Fei, It seems that your strength has improved greatly after being in seclusion for over a month. Only then did Yi Fei realize that this bird-headed, eagle-winged fellow in front of him was actually Luo Shi. The ability of his acquired beast body was that he could fuse with all kinds of spirit beasts and possess all kinds of divine abilities of spirit beasts. It was very magical and, of course, extremely powerful. If he fused with Luo Shi and became a divine beast, Luo Shi would immediately possess the ability of a divine beast to destroy heaven and earth. From this, it could be seen that the Luo family that Luo Shi belonged to was no ordinary family. Luo Shi, is this the Hotion beast body you've cultivated? Why does it look like a birdman or a demonic beast? Zhao Yu flew over, and the air was filled with a faint fragrance that made people feel relaxed and happy. Unfortunately, Zhao Yu's words were too lethal. Not only was Yi Fei speechless, Luo Shi was so hurt that he almost fell from the sky. Princess, this is because the spiritual eagle and I are still too weak. If the spiritual eagle can grow to the level of a divine beast, then I won't be a birdman, but a god. Luo Shi's body surged with a strong sense of confidence. However, soon after, his confidence suffered a terrible blow. Zhao Yu did not say anything, but very accidentally revealed that he was a 10th level martial ancestor realm. Luo Shi's pride turned into deep grief and indignation. 10th level martial ancestor realm. The two of you are really monstrous. Zhao Yu's strength was a huge blow to Luo Shi's confidence. Yi Fei also looked at Zhao Yu in shock. He remembered correctly that Zhao Yu is only a 5th level martial ancestor realm when he returned to the sacred land. In just a month, Zhao Yu had advanced to the 10th level martial ancestor realm. Originally, Yi Fei had thought that breaking through 2 levels in a month was already very incredible. Indeed, the martial world did not lack geniuses. Compared to those real, monstrous geniuses, we still have a long way to go. Yi Fei consoled Luo Shi, and, at the same time, he was consoling himself. Cut it out, you two monstrous geniuses. How is this consoling? It's clearly a blow. Luo Shi looked sad. Luo Shi looked sad. Zhao Yu couldn't help but smile. Obviously, after hanging out with Yi Fei for a long time, this cold princess also had a bit of the charm of the mortal world. By the way, where's Wang Bai? Zhao Yu thought of Wang Bai, who often claimed to be the most handsome person in the world. She had gone into seclusion the moment she returned and did not know Wang Bai's exact situation. Luo Shi was depressed when he heard this. Yi Fei was also speechless. They could not possibly tell Zhao Yu that Wang Bai had not cultivated during this time and had gone to take care of the beauty industry. The first to arrive must be the inner sect disciples. Wang Bai might be rushing over with the outer sect disciples. Yi Fei speculated. Wang Bai is already here. I heard him talking to a few outer sect disciples. Luo Shi's ears twitched as if he could hear voices very far away. This shocked Yi Fei and Zhao Yu. The two of them subconsciously turned back to look. The outer sect disciples who had arrived first were all blurry black dots. They could not see their faces clearly, let alone hear what they were saying. However, not only could Luo Shi hear them, he could also see them. Disregarding everything else, just this ability alone was enough to shock many elders. Yi Fei realized that although Luo Shi's starting point was very low, if Luo Shi could continue to grow, his achievements might not be inferior to those true prodigies. Luo Shi, well done. It seems that I have underestimated your acquired beast body. Yi Fei was secretly happy for Luo Shi. As they chatted along the way, the three of them arrived at the location of the Intersect Grand Competition. It was a huge square that could hold more than 100,000 people. In the middle, there were hundreds of arenas. Yi Fei knew that these arenas were where the Intersect disciples would fight. Looking past these arenas, at the end of the square, there was a huge list. At the bottom of the list, there was a surging river. Above the river, there was a huge mountain peak. The front of the mountain peak was cut off by an expert, revealing the smooth surface of the mountain. On the mountain peak, there was an array engraved with golden, dazzling names. Yi Fei knew that this was Taishan Sacred Lands Mountain River list. Anyone who was on the list would be groomed by the Sacred Lands and would obtain unimaginable benefits. As though he had noticed the many disciples looking at the Mountain River sect with fervent gazes, a red-robed elder stepped in the air and came in front of the Mountain River list. He waved his hand. On the mountain peak, all the golden words disappeared, leaving behind a blank space that caused people to gasp for breath. The Mountain River list has appeared. All participating disciples, please step forward and register your name. Time is limited. Anyone who is not on the list will be disqualified. Shua. No one retreated. The entire 3,000 inner sect disciples, other than those who were not strong, no one was willing to retreat. A total of 2,000 disciples stepped forward. The scene was spectacular. Chapter 274. Chapter 274. Petty people get in the way. Very good. I will now announce the competition's rewards. Mountain River List Rank 1. Reward 100,000 contribution points. A Heaven Tier, Upper Level Martial Art. The reward for second place is 90,000 contribution points and a Heaven Tier, Medial Grade Martial Art. The reward for third place is 80,000 contribution points and a Heaven Class Low Grade Martial Art. Third and fourth place will be rewarded with 70,000 contribution points and a high-grade Spirit Ore. Fifth to 10th place will be rewarded with 50,000 contribution points and one middle-grade Spirit Ore. The red-robed elder spoke expressionlessly about the rewards for entering the Mountain River list, one by one. Every time he said one, all of the disciples present would exclaim in surprise. Even the older disciples who had participated in the Mountain River list a few times were no exception. Truly, the rewards for the Mountain River list were too generous. Just the 100,000 contribution points for first place was enough to make anyone jealous. Such wealth was already the savings of several generations of the super families of Taishan City. Even many of the elders in the inner sect would need to spend 3 to 5 years to obtain so many contribution points. But now, they didn't have to do anything. All they had to do was participate in the competition, and they could obtain such a huge amount of wealth. How could they not be excited? No wonder in the inner sect, when they talk about the Mountain River list, everyone is so excited. So becoming an expert of the Mountain River list has so many rewards. The sacred lands are truly rich and overbearing to actually be able to take out so many spirit ores as rewards. In the next battle, I must go all out. Yi Fei secretly encouraged himself. He wasn't the only one thinking this way. Seeing such a generous reward, even the calmest person would blush and feel their heart warm up. The match had not yet begun, but a surge of battle intent had already filled the entire square. Seeing that the effect was achieved, the red-robed elder did not say much and immediately announced, "Everyone is clear about the rules. The first round will be a free-for-all. All disciples will come forward and draw lots. As for whether you could draw a good lot, that will depend on your own luck." Boom, 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 boom. The red-robed elder left after he finished speaking. Clearly, as a high-level elder of the Holy Land, he was only responsible for the opening of the Inner Disciple Grand Competition. He was not in charge of the specific matters. Instead, 100 black-robed, martial, honorable realm elders appeared in the sky in an orderly manner. They then landed on the arena that they had chosen. They were the judges of the competition. Who won and who lost, as well as the records of the scores, were all decided by these elders. Yi Fei and the other disciples, under the guidance of many inner court deacons, began to line up and draw lots. Yi Fei, number 55. Good luck. Yi Fei took the lot he had drawn and nodded politely. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, someone behind him deliberately bumped into Yi Fei, trying to knock Yi Fei down. "Huang Shu, what are you doing?" With a sidestep, Yi Fei had already dodged Huang Shu's sneak attack. This made Huang Shu very unhappy. He originally wanted to take advantage of the fact that there were many people here to humiliate Yi Fei. In the end, it was as if Yi Fei had eyes on the back of his head. He was able to dodge such a subtle move. Huang Shu immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red. However, this was the venue of the Inner Disciple Grand Competition, and there were elders everywhere watching. No matter how arrogant Huang Shu was, he did not dare to use force. He could only scold angrily. "What are you doing?" "I saw a piece of trash, and it greatly affected my mood." "Yi Fei, you better pray that you are not in the same arena as me in this competition. Indeed, you are despicable, and your bones are despicable. The last time I gave you a slap, you were not satisfied. Could it be that you are looking forward to seeing me give you another slap in the arena? Since you are willing to be despicable, I don't mind." Yi Fei sneered and walked away. During the period when his dantian was crippled, Yi Fei had experienced such ridicule countless times. If Huang Shu thought that he could be ridiculed like this, then he was truly looking for a beating. With just a few words, Yi Fei was able to scold a rich second generation like Huang Xie. Many of the nearby inner sect disciples were also looking at Huang Xie with strange gazes. Some of them were even discussing in low voices. "It can't be. Someone actually dares to provoke a spoiled brat like Huang Shu? I heard that he was even slapped. Haha, well done." I heard that Huang Shu was not satisfied with the slap and took the initiative to ask for another slap. Roar. The discussions of the surrounding disciples made Huang Shu unable to show his face. He had originally come to humiliate Yi Fei, but in the end, he was humiliated by Yi Fei in front of everyone. Huang Shu was so angry that smoke was coming out of his nostrils. He looked at the disciple closest to him and strode forward. He pointed at his nose and scolded, "F***CK, what are you laughing at? Do you believe that I can make you unable to stay in the inner disciple sect with just one word? Get lost." "Huang Shu, he's just a piece of trash. Why are you so angry?" Ma Zai looked at the departing Yi Fei. After asking the elder in charge of drawing lots for Yi Fei, he slowly walked over. Seeing Ma Zai walk over, Huang Shu was filled with anger. He pointed at Ma Zai and scolded, "Ma Zai, you are not a good person either. You asked me to help you deal with Yi Fei, but in the end, you stayed out of it. You deserve to be kicked out of the auction." Haha. Huang Shu deliberately laughed. This time, he had finally succeeded in humiliating Ma Zai. Being kicked out of the auction by Yi Fei and not being allowed to enter again for the rest of his life was definitely a pain that Ma Zai could not bear. Hearing Huang Shu mention it, Ma Zai's face turned extremely ugly. Helplessly looking at Huang Shu's back, Ma Zai could only hold back his anger and say to Huang Shu, "Huang Shu, you are still too impulsive. There's so many stages in the grand competition. Just the number of disciples participating in the competition is more than 2,000. The chances of us encountering him in the arena are too small. If I can't, can you? Ma Zai, you usually have a lot of ideas. If you can help me deal with that piece of trash, we can still be good friends." Huang Shu said happily. When he was happy, he could treat Ma Zai as a friend. When he was unhappy, he would insult Ma Zai. Clearly, being Huang Shu's friend was a test of his tolerance. At the very least, when Ma Zai heard this, his face unconsciously twitched. However, Ma Zai did not reject Huang Shu's friendship. He immediately put his arm around Huang Shu's shoulder and made up with him. "Haha, Huang Shu, just watch. That Yi Fei does not know his place. He dares to offend us, so we will definitely not let him off." After mending his relationship with Huang Shu, Ma Zai suddenly raised his voice and directly announced, "All the disciples in the top 100 of the Mountain River list, listen up, I am Ma Zai, the third-ranked disciple in the inner sect. Now, I am extremely unhappy with a new disciple called Yi Fei. As long as anyone can meet him on the stage and injure him heavily, they will be able to obtain my friendship and also the gratitude of 10,000 contribution points." Bang! Ma Zai's words were earth-shattering, causing many of the inner sect disciples to be shaken. Even though they knew that Ma Zai and Yi Fei had conflicts, but no one would have thought that Ma Zai would be so brazen. In front of the clan elders, he openly made things difficult for Yi Fei. He even directly requested for the top 100 experts of the Mountain River list to work together against Yi Fei. Chapter 275. Death Group. Ma Zai's words startled many of the black-robed elders present. They began to inquire about this matter. Who is that new disciple called Yi Fei? How did he offend Ma Zai? Senior brothers, don't you know? This Yi Fei is extremely arrogant in the inner sect. He's just a mediocre first-grade Earth-class disciple. I don't know how he managed to curry favor with the sword peak and obtain the sword token. After that, he started to act impudently. Not only did he forbid my disciple, Ma Zai, from entering the auction house for the rest of his life, he even forbade Huang Xie from entering the mission hall. Ma Zai's master stood up and started to speak up for Ma Zai. This elder didn't say anything bad about Ma Zai, but specifically picked on Yi Fei. Many of the elders were furious when they heard that Yi Fei's talent was only Earth Grade 1, yet he had continuously framed 2 top 10 inner sect experts, greatly affecting their future. How did this Yi Fei manage to enter the inner sect? Such an arrogant person is the shame of the inner sect. No wonder no one is willing to accept him as a disciple. A mediocre D grade 1 talent. Even if he begs this old man will not accept him. To think that he dares to affect the future of a genius like Ma Zai. This Yi Fei is simply a black sheep. Usually, when it came to conflicts between inner disciples, the elders would try to stop them. However, it was different this time. Once they heard that Yi Fei's talent was so mediocre, and that he was causing trouble everywhere, even framing 2 of the top 10 inner disciples, the elders immediately lost all goodwill towards Yi Fei. As for Ma Zai and Huang Xie, even though they were arrogant and despotic in the inner sect, their talents were still very shocking. Huang Xie's Dantian was a 6th grade D class, and Ma Zai wasn't bad either. Although he only had a 5th grade Dantian, Ma Zai also had a special physique, the spiritual body. Although the spiritual body was the weakest among all the special body constitutions, it was still a special body constitution. In the future, it was very likely that the spiritual body would break through to the Martial King realm. Of course, the elders would not offend a future Martial King realm expert for a disciple who actively caused trouble. He simply pretended not to hear it. The elders' indifferent attitude greatly encouraged Huang Shu and Ma Zai's arrogance. Ma Zai smiled proudly. He felt that he had finally gotten his revenge for being chased out of the auction by Yi Fei. Huang Shu was still very dissatisfied. Ma Zai had gotten his revenge, but he still had a huge debt to settle with Yi Fei. Seeing that Ma Zai had spoken, no elder spoke up to stop him. Huang Shu felt that he had gone too easy on Yi Fei, so he immediately added in a loud voice, "Senior brothers and junior brothers, listen up. I, Huang Shu, also find a certain piece of trash an eyesore. In the arena, whoever can cripple Yi Fei will receive my friendship and the gratitude of 40,000 contribution points." Boom! Huang Shu's words caused many of the inner sect experts to be shocked. Yi Fei had offended Ma Zai, and Ma Zai had made it so that Yi Fei would never be able to enter the Mountain River list. Everyone could understand. But Huang Shu's methods were too vicious. He actually wanted to cripple Yi Fei, causing many disciples to look at Yi Fei with sympathy. In the inner sect, everyone knew that they could offend anyone, but they could not offend Huang Shu, the 2nd-generation ancestor. For Yi Fei to offend Huang Shu, wasn't he seeking his own death? Of course, there were also a few disciples who looked at Yi Fei fiercely. After all, whoever could defeat Yi Fei would not only receive Huang Shu and Ma Zai's friendship, they would also receive 50,000 contribution points. That was 50,000 contribution points. A few of the Mountain River list experts had obvious greed in their eyes. You guys are too much. Zhao Yu could not take it anymore. He wanted to stand out and help Yi Fei. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, who were not far away, were also restless. Don't be rash. Yi Fei shook his head at Zhao Yu, and then gave Lin Sun and Yang Xiao a look. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao already understood that Yi Fei could settle the matter himself, and did not need their help. Although Zhao Yu was a newcomer to the inner sect, but with her beauty, many of the inner sect disciples had already treated Zhao Yu as their goddess. In the end, their goddess actually stood out for Yi Fei, and Yi Fei even displayed a timid look. Many of the disciples present felt uncomfortable. Many of the intersect experts were also extremely unhappy, adding the allure of the 50,000 contribution points. A few of the Mountain River list experts who were tempted immediately asked each other, "What stage is Yi Fei at? If we can meet him, we will have profited greatly." Ha ha ha. Everyone, you guys will not have that chance. Yi Fei has drawn the 55th stage, which is coincidentally the stage that I am at. His hands and feet and the 50,000 contribution points, Gong Sun Long, will not be courteous and keep them. Suddenly, a sharp voice came out from the crowd. A short figure with a sallow complexion had already appeared on the 55th arena. It was just that because he was too short, no one had noticed him just now. "Yi Fei, get up here. Grandpa Gong Sun will now teach you how to conduct yourself in the intersect." Gong Sun Long was short, but his entire body was emitting a terrifying cold intent. His sinister voice caused many disciples to feel a chill down their spines. Huang Shu and Ma Zai were also startled. They did not expect Yi Fei to meet the 11th ranked Gong Sun Long in the first round, and they all laughed out loud. The surrounding disciples all looked at Yi Fei with sympathetic eyes, secretly sighing and shaking their heads. This Yi Fei is truly unlucky to meet Gong Sun Long in the first round. He is the 11th ranked expert. It is not just Gong Sun Long. Look, the 5th ranked Shi Feng seems to be at the 55th stage too. That can't be right. Gong Sun Long is already enough, but Shi Feng is actually that perverted person. He is also at the 55th stage. This is truly a group of death. All the disciples who were at the 55th stage were all dejected. Luo, she also looked at Yi Fei nervously. "Brother Fei, your group is too scary. Are you all right?" Ha ha ha. Yi Fei suddenly laughed out loud and patted Luo Shi's shoulder. Yi Fei leaped up and jumped onto the 55th stage and pointed at Gong Sun Long and scolded, "You were just a shorty. I did not want to bully you, but since you're looking for death and want to be someone else's dog, then you're not fit to stand and talk to me. I will give you 3 breaths of time. Kneel down and talk to me." Bang! Yi Fei's words were arrogant, tyrannical, and did not leave any face for Gong Sun Long. His eyes filled with contempt and arrogance. It caused all the clan elders to raise their eyebrows, and many of the disciples were scared out of their wits. Who in the intersect did not know that Gong Sun Long hated it when people called him short? Anyone who said that would only have one outcome, and that was to be tortured to death by Gong Sun Long. Now, Yi Fei had pointed out Gong Sun Long's flaw in front of everyone, and actually wanted the 11th ranked expert to kneel down and talk. How arrogant was that? How disdainful. Chapter 276. The First Battle. Yi Fei die. Roar. Gong Sun Long rushed towards Yi Fei furiously without saying a word. Due to the flaws in his cultivation method, he had been ugly and short since he was young. This caused Gong Sun Long to develop an inferiority complex and a violent personality. Anyone who said that he was short would be tortured to death by him. Even if someone said the same word in front of him, Gong Sun Long would be enraged immediately. There was once an inner disciple who accidentally sighed in front of Gong Sun Long. It was because of that sound that Gong Sun Long was so angry that he tore that disciple apart on the spot. This showed how violent Gong Sun Long's personality was. Now, not only did Yi Fei say that Gong Sun Long was short, he even asked Gong Sun Long to kneel down. As soon as these words left his mouth, Gong Sun Long's violent side was triggered to the peak. A terrifying killing intent covered the sky. It was even scarier than the demon sect disciples of the Dark Sky cult that Yi Fei had encountered. Who knew how many people Gong Sun Long had killed? Before the referee elder could react, Gong Sun Long had already made his move. Ghost rending palm. Around the arena, there was a terrifying shriek. Immediately, these shrieks turned into layers of claw shadows that tore through the air and dug towards Yi Fei's vital points. At the same time, Gong Sun Long's short body moved quickly like a gopher. The entire arena was filled with blurry phantoms. They were like layers of phantoms that covered the sky and the earth. They surrounded Yi Fei. The surrounding disciples were also shocked. Not good. This is the heaven-class lower-tier ghost rending palm. It is also Gong Suanlong's most vicious martial art. Yi Fei, you are finished. I will tear apart anyone who says that I am short. I will dig out your eyes, cut out your tongue, and crush every bone in your body. Gong Sunlong's sinister laughter came from the endless afterimages. Instantly, two ghostly claws silently dug towards Yi Fei's face. That feeling was definitely more terrifying than seeing a ghost in the middle of the night. Yi Fei smiled coldly. Although he sympathized with Gong Sunlong's situation, Yi Fei was still disgusted by his cruel methods. The battle demon golden body was instantly activated. Facing the sky, full of ghosts, Yi Fei did not evade or attack. He only made one movement. He raised his leg and took a step forward. Boom! Xiao Chun took a heavy step forward, letting Gong Sunlong's countless ghost-ripping hands tear at his body, no matter how hard or how fast they tore. Yi Fei was like a golden war demon, walking through the world and ignoring all obstacles. At the same time, he had withstood Gong Sunlong's attack. Yi Fei's astonishing psychic senses allowed him to instantly capture the location of Gong Sunlong's true body among the afterimages. I told you to kneel down and talk. You shorty, didn't you hear me? Boom! Xiao Chen's hand, which was harder than gold, grabbed Gong Sunlong. The afterimages in the sky disappeared instantly. Gong Sunlong was horrified to find that his neck was tightly grabbed by the hand. Suddenly, he felt that the world was spinning again. Facing Gong Sunlong, who was smaller than a child, Yi Fei did not even have the interest to torture him. The moment Xiao Chun grabbed Gong Sunlong, he activated the Devil Emperor scripture and slammed Gong Sunlong's body onto the ground. The entire arena started to shake violently. Half of Gong Sunlong's body had been planted into the hard ground by Yi Fei, unable to move. Only his eyes, which were like those of a gopher, looked at Yi Fei in horror. Don't hit me, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Oh, his cruel side was completely crushed by Yi Fei's violence. Gong Sunlong's extremely inferior side was revealed again. Before Yi Fei could continue attacking, Gong Sunlong was so frightened that he started to cry. Yi Fei was depressed. He ignored Gong Sunlong and turned to walk down the arena. At this moment, Gong Sunlong, who had been crying loudly, suddenly had a savage and cruel look in his eyes. His entire body, which had already shattered the arena, charged towards Yi Fei at lightning speed. The sharp green dagger was aimed at Yi Fei's back. Yi Fei, Grandpa Gong Sun will take your life today. Clang! Gong Sunlong used all his strength to stab Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's body did not move at all. Even his skin was not pierced. Do you think that I won't be on guard against people like you? Yi Fei turned around coldly and smiled coldly at Gong Sunlong. The moment Gong Sunlong made his move, Yi Fei also made his move. He did not hold back and snatched the green dagger. Then he quickly stabbed Gong Sunlong in all four directions. He had already stabbed 4 deep bloody holes in Gong Sunlong's hands and feet. Gong Sunlong, do you think that you are acting pitiful? In my eyes, you are not pitiful. You are sad and hateful. You, Ma Zai, and Huang Shu are all no match for me. You are just the most ridiculous clowns. Puff! The last dagger stabbed into Gong Sunlong's shoulder. Yi Fei directly threw Gong Sunlong, who was covered in blood and had fainted from the pain, out of the arena. He also threw Gong Sunlong to Huang Shu and Ma Zai's feet. They did not participate in the competition in their respective arenas. Instead, they had been waiting here. They wanted to see Yi Fei being cruelly beaten by Gong Sunlong. However, the result was undoubtedly shocking to everyone. Yi Fei's war demon's golden body was too terrifying. Even a supreme-grade Xian weapon could not pierce through Yi Fei's defense. Huang Shu's face turned pale in an instant. Only then did he know that the previous 2 times he was beaten up by Yi Fei was not unjust. Ma Zai's face also changed. Although he had confidence in breaking Yi Fei's golden body defense, but Yi Fei's display of talent Without a doubt, Ma Zai's plan had failed again. Not only was he unable to stop Yi Fei from entering the Mountain River list, and with Yi Fei's display of strength, it was more than enough for him to enter the top 10 of the inner sect. Of course, the prerequisite was that Yi Fei could defeat Shifeng. Thinking about that, Ma Zai subconsciously looked at Shifeng and said, "Shifeng, are you willing to help me to deal with this Yi Fei?" "Ma Zai, you do not have the qualifications to order me." Shifeng carried the heavy metal chains on his back. He did not even look at Ma Zai. From start to finish, Shifeng's gaze was only on one person, and that was Yi Fei. "Your physical body's defense is very strong," Shifeng said with certainty. "It's a pity that it's not strong enough." Yi Fei sighed. His gaze was fixated on Shifeng. From this person, he could sense a qi that was more dangerous than Yang Shao and Lin Sun combined. Shifeng nodded his head, then shook his head. Suddenly, he carried the heavy stone chains and walked up the stage. "Yi Fei, come up. Let's fight." "Shifeng, this is not appropriate. Your opponent now is not Yi Fei," the elder in charge of the referee said helplessly. "Qi." Unfortunately, before the black-robed elder could finish, the heavy stone chains suddenly smashed towards him. The elder was caught off guard. His chest felt as though it had smashed into a mountain. His bones shattered as he spat out blood and flew out of the stage. Chapter 277. A clash between the strong. Not only was the black-gowned elder beaten by Shifeng until he vomited blood and fell off the stage, he was even publicly called trash by Shifeng. This elder was immediately enraged. He rushed onto the stage with soaring anger, pointed at Shifeng, and roared. However, before he could finish roaring, Shifeng's reply was as simple, direct, and berserk as before. Boom! Another stone lock smashed over. If that elder had not dodged quickly, he would likely have been smashed off the stage by Shifeng's stone lock again. This was definitely the black-gowned elder's most humiliating day. As both an elder and a referee, he was beaten up by a disciple. Furthermore, he had no one to seek justice for himself. In a world of martial cultivators, the strong were revered. Even if the person before him was an elder, his strength was inferior to Shifeng's. Being beaten up could only be considered as bad luck. After all, this elder's strength was only that of a half-step martial saint. However, from this, Yi Fei could tell that there were not many martial saint experts in the Holy Land. At the very most, there would not be more than 100. As for martial kings above the martial saint realm, they were even rarer. Shifeng, as a disciple, you dare to beat up an elder like me. Are you not afraid that I will disqualify you from the competition? The black-gowned elder felt that he had lost a great deal of face. However, he no longer dared to fight against Shifeng. Only, he was still unwilling to admit defeat verbally. Shifeng looked at this elder coldly. As an elder, you do not know how to protect your disciple. You dare to speak to me like that? Just these words caused that elder's face to fill with shame. Indeed, when Gongsun Long disregarded the rules and directly challenged Yi Fei, he was afraid of offending Ma Zai and Huang Shu. Thus, he had deliberately pretended not to see it. It was only at this moment that Yi Fei realized that Shifeng had suddenly attacked the elder because he did not like this elder's conduct. He could not help but have a good impression of Shifeng in his heart. Many thanks. Yi Fei cupped his hands at Shifeng. I'm not helping you. I'm only letting you know the strength of my stone lock. Are you certain that you can withstand it? If you withdraw now, I will not blame you. Shifeng glanced at Yi Fei's cultivation level. He was only in the 9th tier of the martial arts grandmaster realm. He suddenly felt a little dispirited. It was a kind of loneliness that came from a lack of opponents. Yi Fei was not angry after hearing this. He knew that Shifeng was indeed qualified to look down on him. Just by the fact that Shifeng was able to injure a half-martial highness elder with a single attack, Yi Fei understood how terrifying Shifeng's strength was. However, it was precisely because he understood Shifeng's strength that Yi Fei felt the excitement of encountering a strong opponent. This was his personality. The stronger he met, the stronger he became. Shi Feng's strength greatly stimulated Yi Fei's fighting spirit. He did not retreat. Instead, he took large strides forward and walked towards the center of the stage. He cupped his hands towards Shi Feng and said, "Please advise me." "All right." Shi Feng didn't say much. As he opened his mouth, the heavy stone lock whizzed through the air like a moving mountain and headed straight for Yi Fei. Once he made his move, it was earth-shattering. That was Shi Feng. Yi Fei immediately felt the blood in his body boiling. He could clearly see that the stone lock was not Shi Feng's true strength. Shi Feng was just feigning an attack to test Yi Fei's strength. If Yi Fei could not even block Shi Feng's stone lock, then he was not fit to be Shi Feng's opponent. Demonic battle, golden body. Understanding that, Yi Fei bellowed and activated the Devil Emperor scripture. Just like how Shi Feng wanted to test him, how could he not want to witness the true strength of the fifth ranker of the Mountain River list? Bang! The stone lock tore through the air. Like a heavy mountain, it struck Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's body stood tall and straight. His chi was as sharp as a sword, causing waves of sword whistles. Many of the outer court disciples present had to firmly hold onto the hilts of their swords in order to prevent the swords on their bodies from being attracted to the arena by Yi Fei's sword intent. And this was under the condition that Yi Fei did not have a sword in his hands. Sword intent? So your strongest point is not your physical defense, but your sword. Then I will force you to use your sword. Shi Feng's calm face finally revealed a trace of emotion. Just as the stone lock smashed out, another stone lock came at an even faster speed, smashing towards Yi Fei's two sides. The power was enough to shatter a mountain. Many of the martial master disciples present had fear in their eyes when they saw this. This kind of stone lock attack was too heavy and too terrifying. No wonder the half-step martial honorable black-robed elder was unable to block it. Good timing. The weight is not bad, but it's a pity that my demonic battle golden body is not that easy to break. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yi Fei ignored the two stone locks that were approaching him. He continued to move forward, one step at a time, each step heavier than the previous. He was accumulating his strength, preparing to block the two stone locks. He wanted to see how strong the two stone locks were. In the next second, the two stone locks heavily smashed onto Yi Fei's body, causing Yi Fei's body to shine with a golden light. The entire stage shook violently. However, Yi Fei was unharmed. The demonic battle golden body had successfully blocked Shi Feng's two consecutive stone locks. This scene also shocked countless disciples who were watching the battle. Gasps could be heard everywhere. Even Shi Feng, who is ranked 5th on the Mountain River list, could not break through Yi Fei's defense. How strong is his defense? What's the rush? Shi Feng is just testing the waters. He has not used his true killing technique yet. However, this Yi Fei, as a newcomer, is able to block 2 of Shi Feng's attacks. Even if he loses, he should be proud of himself. The surrounding disciples were discussing. The elders nearby all looked over. It was the first time they were sizing up Yi Fei. "You are very strong." Shi Feng's face changed completely. He was excited to meet his match. "However, I'm going to use my full strength now. I hope that you can continue to be this strong." Mountain River shattering, stone locks in the sky. Rumble. Shi Feng kept the 2 stone locks. But following that, around his body, another 9 stone locks appeared, forming a mountain peak that moved quickly. One after another, they quickly smashed onto Yi Fei. Yi Fei's face congealed. He knew that Shi Feng was starting to get serious. This was definitely Shi Feng's full strength attack. If he could not block it, not only would he lose to Shi Feng, he would also lose the qualifications to continue participating in the intersect competition. I have not even entered the top 10, and I have already fallen. This I will not allow. Yi Fei's face was filled with determination. He immediately activated the Devil Emperor Sutra. His body suddenly blossomed with a blazing golden light. It was as though a golden sun was revolving around his body. Then, Yi Fei took a step forward. Puffing out his chest, he charged towards Shi Feng. He did not have a sword. To win against Shifeng, he had to get close to him. Shifeng could see that too. His gaze turned cold, and a look of ridicule flashed past his eyes. He was not anxious to attack, but asked, "Without drawing your sword, you want to get close to me? Aren't you being too confident? Watch me break your golden body defense." Chapter 278. 7 Killing Fists. 6 Stone Locks. Each one as heavy as a mountain, heavily smashed down. That kind of power was enough to make one's heart tremble, and also cause one's courage to shatter. Even with the battle demon golden body, Yi Fei could feel his body emitting teeth-numbing creaking sounds as cracks started to appear on his golden body. 6 stone locks was the limit that Yi Fei could endure at the moment. No matter how strong the war demon golden body was, there would still be a limit. If he broke through this limit, Yi Fei would be injured or even killed. Of course, in the eyes of outsiders, Yi Fei was able to withstand 6 stone locks from Shifeng and still be fine. His physical defense could no longer be described as abnormal. It was simply terrifying. Ma Zai's and Huang Shu's expressions changed. Previously, Ma Zai was still confident that he could break through Yi Fei's golden body. However, after seeing Yi Fei withstand Shifeng's 6 stone locks and continue to advance, his confidence was no longer sufficient. The only thing that comforted Ma Zai was that 6 stone locks was already Yi Fei's limit. Shifeng still had 3 stone locks that he hadn't used yet. Yi Fei's defensive golden body will definitely be broken by the 7th stone lock. Yi Fei will be seriously injured by the 8th stone lock. Yi Fei will definitely be smashed into a pulp by the 9th stone lock. He's finished. This is the end for him in the inter-sect grand competition. Ma Zai and Huang Shu laughed maniacally as they left this place in advance. They rushed to their respective arenas and began to participate in the competition. Many people also shook their heads and prepared to disperse. They believed that the moment Yi Fei's golden body shattered would be the moment of Yi Fei's defeat. Yi Fei also felt the pressure, but fortunately, after resisting for so long, he finally broke through Shifeng's stone lock and successfully occupied the best position to attack. However, in the face of Yi Fei's approach, Shifeng was very calm. He asked curiously, "Aren't you going to draw your sword?" Shifeng had a habit. He hoped that all of his opponents would use their full strength. That way, he would be able to achieve more after defeating them. Now that he saw that Yi Fei was not drawing his sword, Shifeng was not in a hurry to defeat Yi Fei. "I hope you'll do your best." Shifeng said seriously, "I've done my best, but I don't use my sword." Yi Fei laughed bitterly. If he knew that in the first round of competition, he would continuously meet experts from the Mountain River list, he would have prepared a good sword earlier. It was a pity that a good sword was hard to find. A good sword that could withstand the double pressure of the Devil Emperor's Sutra and the extraterrestrial divine fire was even harder to find. However, what Yi Fei did not expect was that when his words fell into the ears of others, it sounded very strange. "What do you mean you don't use a sword? Your strongest weapon is clearly the sword, all right?" Since he was still unwilling to draw his sword, there could only be one reason for that. This Yi Fei is too arrogant, too arrogant. Facing Shifeng, he actually did not draw his sword. Don't tell me. Even Shifeng is unable to force him to use his full strength? This Yi Fei is truly arrogant. The discussions of the spectating disciples made Yi Fei extremely gloomy. They had completely misunderstood his words. Helpless, he did not have the chance to explain himself. Shifeng's face had already revealed a look of anger. "Yi Fei, you're truly arrogant. Even 6 stone locks cannot force you to draw your sword. What about 7, 8, 9? Boom, boom." A total of 9 stone locks swept across the sky and smashed towards Yi Fei. In truth, when the 7 stone locks smashed down, Yi Fei knew that his war demon golden body would not be able to block it. When he saw the 8th and 9th stone locks smashing down, if he was unable to block it, he would most likely be smashed into meat paste. Other than regretting that he did not prepare a good sword in advance, Yi Fei did not dare to be careless. He fiercely executed the 7-kill fist that he had just learned. After all, this fist technique was an upper heaven-class martial art. It should be able to block the remaining 3 stone locks of Shi Feng's attack. Kill. Suddenly, a fierce, murderous aura emerged from Yi Fei's body, following which this murderous aura formed 2 blood-red vortexes that appeared above Yi Fei's fists. 7-kill fist. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Fei did not stop moving. He threw out 3 consecutive punches, forming 3 blood-red fist shadows that heavily smashed against the last 3 stone locks of Shi Feng's attack. Crack! In an instant, Yi Fei's fist smashed a deep crack into one of the stone locks. The power of a heaven-class martial art was evident. However, at the same time, Yi Fei also suffered a huge impact from the stone locks. The war demon golden body on his body was instantly shattered. However, using this opportunity, Yi Fei successfully smashed open the 8th stone lock. What? The disciples who were about to leave were once again shocked by the battle in the arena. However, before they could recover from their shock, the sky suddenly darkened. The 9th stone lock was as big as a mountain. With a huge force, it smashed down heavily. The entire arena could not withstand the heavy pressure and was torn apart. Countless disciples were also shocked by this scene. Could it be that Yi Fei was smashed into a meat patty just like that? A heaven-class martial art and the speed of the golden rock wings. Yi Fei, is this why you don't draw your sword? Then you can lose. Shi Feng did not look at the arena. Instead, he raised his head and the 9 stone locks rose from the ground and smashed into the sky. Only now did people realize that Yi Fei had actually used the speed of the Great Peng Wings to avoid the 9th stone lock's attack in the nick of time. It's a pity that just relying on speed is not enough. I can't use my sword. Unless I can cultivate the 7-kill fist to the Great Circle, I will be able to fight against Shi Feng. Even though he had escaped, Yi Fei was still unsatisfied. He could not fail. If he could not even enter the top 10 of the Mountain River list, how could he enter the Star Moon Holy Land and bring his sister back? Bang! Without thinking, Shi Feng's 9 stone locks had already risen from the ground like a mountain, once again surrounding Yi Fei and smashing towards Yi Fei from different directions. An unprecedented crisis. But under such a crisis, Yi Fei did not feel fear, but excitement and an intense fighting intent. His mind was clear like never before. Suddenly, an extremely bold thought entered his mind. Since he did not have the time to cultivate the 7-kill fist to the Great Circle, then why could he not continue to comprehend the 7-kill fist while fighting? That's right. That's the only way I can win now. Yi Fei's heart hardened. Although the idea was crazy, it was not impossible for him to succeed. The indestructible sword spirit's black energy could increase his comprehension limitlessly. That was what Yi Fei was relying on. Kill. With killing intent in my heart, I can form a fist with a thought. The 7-kill fist are heaven kill, earth kill, man kill. Ghost kill, heaven kill, yin-yang kill, ghost god kill. Thinking about it, relying on the indestructible sword spirit to increase his comprehension, Yi Fei immediately split his attention. On one hand, he relied on the speed of the golden rock wings to dodge the stone locks in the sky, and on the other hand, he quickly continued to comprehend the 7-kill fist. The clamor in the arena instantly disappeared. Under the limitless increase in comprehension, Yi Fei quickly entered a state of cultivation where he forgot about himself. As for the stone locks controlled by Shi Feng, they became Yi Fei's best targets to attack. Bang! 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 Chapter 279. Breaking Through in Battle, 7-Killing Fist. Boom! 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 After entering a state of oblivion, Yi Fei even forgot that he was still in the arena, fighting a bitter battle with Shi Feng. Suddenly, 3 fist shadows appeared on his fist and continuously smashed towards the stone locks flying towards him. Immediately, 3 stone locks were sent flying by Yi Fei. However, there were still 6 stone locks flying towards Yi Fei. At this moment, Yi Fei's right fist also smashed out. Another 3 stone locks were smashed out by Yi Fei. In this way, Yi Fei had already dealt with 6 of Shi Feng's 9 stone locks. The remaining 3 were nothing to worry about. When using the 7 killing fist, Yi Fei activated the battle demon golden body once again. He completely ignored the heavy impact of the 3 stone locks and strode forward. He punched out once again. This time, it was a continuous punch filled with intense killing intent. However, this time, it was not 3 fist shadows, but a total of 4 fist shadows. They formed 4 terrifying blasts of air and smashed towards Shi Feng. Yi Fei, is this your final trump card? So the heaven level, upper level, 7 killing fist has finally fallen into your hands. Unfortunately, if you had cultivated it to perfection earlier, you might have been able to break through my stone locks. Unfortunately, with only 4 fist shadows, you won't be able to break through my stone locks. Iron Lock River. After fighting for a long time, Shi Feng couldn't help but become a little impatient. The 9 stone locks floating around him suddenly lined up in a row and pushed towards Yi Fei with an overwhelming aura. Since he couldn't lock onto Yi Fei's rapidly moving figure, Shi Feng decided to use his strongest attack, enveloping the entire arena. In this way, no matter where Yi Fei dodged, he wouldn't be able to avoid the impact of his stone locks. As long as 1 stone lock successfully hit Yi Fei, Shi Feng would have a way to smash the other 8 stone locks onto Yi Fei, causing Yi Fei to suffer a crushing defeat. Kill. However, to everyone's surprise, this time, Yi Fei did not dodge or hide. Instead, he executed the 7 killing fists with both hands. Suddenly, he boldly charged towards Shi Feng's stone lock. Boom! A shocking scene appeared. Yi Fei's fist had forcefully suppressed Shi Feng's stone lock, and then fiercely pushed it back. It was like a stone being thrown into a giant wave. Shi Feng suddenly felt the true essence within his body surge, and his aura become chaotic. However, Yi Fei's injuries were even more serious. In the end, Shi Feng was a half-step martial saint. The stone lock in his hand was even more mysterious and unpredictable. Although Yi Fei had cleverly used Shi Feng's stone lock to break the Iron Lock River, he was unable to do so. But at the same time, Yi Fei also felt an extremely violent wave of true essence slamming into Yi Fei's body. The war demon golden body shattered once again. The corner of Yi Fei's mouth was also bleeding, but Yi Fei still did not retreat. His eyes were red as he continued to move forward. He secretly separated a small amount of black energy and poured it into his body. Boom! The blood in his body immediately started to boil and burn. Raging flames appeared on Yi Fei's body. However, these raging flames were only used subconsciously by Yi Fei to deceive others. Most of his consciousness was still immersed in the crazy comprehension of the 7 killing fists. Under Shi Feng's pressure, the number of fist images quickly broke through to the level of 4. According to the requirements of the 7 killing fists, this level already belonged to the small mastery realm. However, Yi Fei was still not satisfied. What he needed was not the small mastery realm, but the large mastery realm. It would be best if he could reach the large mastery realm. Only then would he be able to defeat Shi Feng without using a sword technique. It's still not enough. I want to become stronger. I want the 7 killing fists to become even stronger. Kill, 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 kill. 7 killing cries came out of Yi Fei's mouth. Under the cover of the raging flames, Yi Fei's injured body quickly recovered. The battle demon golden body appeared once again. Just like that, Yi Fei endured the terrifying stone chains that filled the sky and continued to use the 7 killing fists that he had already repeated many times. Under the enhancement of the undying sword soul's comprehension ability, as well as Shi Feng's powerful pressure, Yi Fei's mind became clearer and swifter than ever before. The more he was injured, the more danger he was in. When Yi Fei performed the 7 kills fist for the 10th time, every move and style was imprinted in Yi Fei's mind. He constantly deduced them and transformed them into his own strength. Of course, during this process, Yi Fei was attacked by the stone chains countless times. The battle demon golden body had already shattered countless times. If it were anyone else, they would have been crushed by Shi Feng's stone chains. However, Yi Fei was still persevering. Even if his body was in pain and his bones were about to fall apart, as long as he still had one breath left, he would not admit defeat. Kill! Another deep roar came out of Yi Fei's mouth. He could no longer remember how many stone chains he had smashed away. His fist was covered in blood, and one could almost see the white bones of his fingers. However, Yi Fei still did not turn his head. Instead, he felt the pressure on his body gradually weaken. Yi Fei, who had entered the state of selflessness, did not realize that in this one-sided battle, his 7 killing fists had already broken through at an astonishing speed. 4 shadows, 5 shadows, 6 shadows. At the highest level of 7 kills, one could strike out 7 fist shadows at once, creating a 7-fold attack. At this time, in just a short hour of battle, Yi Fei had already completed a level of martial arts that many martial artists would need to spend months or even years to achieve. The spectating disciples were all shocked. Shi Feng's face also revealed a look of disbelief. He is actually using my pressure to comprehend the 7 killing fists. This lunatic, is he trying to cultivate the beginner 7 killing fists to the great circle in such a short period of time? If it were anyone else, Shi Feng would never believe it. However, when he saw Yi Fei cultivate the 7 killing fists from 3 shadows to 6 shadows in just an hour, Shi Feng felt a sense of dread. He didn't know why, but a feeling of dread appeared in Shi Feng's heart. The comprehension ability Yi Fei displayed was too terrifying. Shi Feng's expression finally changed. The relaxed expression on his face was no longer present. Instead, as Yi Fei's breakthroughs became faster and faster, his expression gradually became incomparably grave. Yi Fei, I will definitely not let you break through to the great circle of the 7 killing fists. I admit that it won't be long before you have the ability to fight with me. However, the current you does not have the ability to defeat me. You could be defeated now. Shi Feng enunciated each word clearly. The stone chains that were flying towards Yi Fei were all retracted. Every stone chain was stained with Yi Fei's blood. However, Yi Fei did not care. He was still immersed in cultivating the 7 killing fists. He had a feeling that he was about to comprehend the final essence of the 7 killing fists. 9 peaks colliding sun. Chapter 280. When killing intent soars to the heavens, the mountain formed by the 9 layers of stone locks instantly fell from the sky. The pressure caused the entire arena to creak, unable to bear the weight. The spectating disciples all turned pale. They knew that Shi Feng was going to use his full strength this time. The half-step martial honorable elder in charge of refereeing had a shocked expression on his face. Under the aura of the stone lock, he actually felt an enormous fear. That was the fear of death. After shouting, "Oh no," that elder even forgot about his responsibility as a referee and hurriedly fled the arena with his fastest speed. In the middle of the stone locks, Yi Fei was still brandishing his fists. As his fists deepened, he had already forgotten that he was in the arena and that he was still fighting Shi Feng. The limitless increase in comprehension had not only caused Yi Fei to enter a state where he forgot about everything around him, but he had also gone one step further and entered a special state of invincibility. In this state, Yi Fei executed the 7 murderous fists faster and faster, and he became more and more familiar with them. He seemed to have seen a light in the darkness, and also seemed to have seen a fine law. That's right, it was a law. Every martial technique had its own law, just like every weapon had its own martial intent. As long as Yi Fei came into contact with the law of the martial technique, he would be able to reach a higher level and instantly upgrade the 7 murderous fists to the great perfection stage. It's actually invincible without self. Bastard, Who was the one who said that Yi Fei was a mediocre Earth Grade 1 martial artist? Even if his talent is mediocre, his comprehension is definitely at the level of a demon. In the distant sky, the red-robed elder who was in charge of the competition suddenly became angry at the group of black-robed elders who were flattering him. It turned out that he had actually been observing Yi Fei, watching the battle between Yi Fei and Shifeng. The surrounding black-robed elders were also stunned. Based on the information displayed on Yi Fei's identity medallion, they had arbitrarily determined that Yi Fei was a good-for-nothing, a mediocre person with some special techniques. However, Yi Fei had used this mediocre method to forcefully cultivate a heaven-grade martial technique from beginner to expert in an extremely short period of time in front of everyone. Now, he had even entered the state of invincibility that every martial artist dreamed of. This state was already infinitely close to enlightenment in martial techniques. And to be able to reach this state of enlightenment, regardless of the quality of one's dantian, was a true demon that was 1 in 10,000. The funny thing was that many elders actually mocked Yi Fei's mediocre talent and that he was not worthy of their attention. Boom, boom, boom. Hearing the explosive sound of the fist tearing through the air, many elders felt their faces burning. It was a very unpleasant feeling. The red-robed elder couldn't care less about teaching these people a lesson. His gaze was completely focused on Yi Fei. At the same time, he also noticed that Shifeng was about to land on the 9 stone locks. Not good. Shifeng's attack is too terrifying. Although Yi Fei's comprehension is amazing, and he has entered the state of invincibility, unless he can instantly cultivate the 7 killing fist to perfection, Yi Fei will definitely die after taking Shifeng's attack. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the red-robed elder had already rushed to the arena, wanting to stop Shifeng from continuing. The other black-robed elders laughed disdainfully when they heard this. 9 Peaks Colliding Sun is Shifeng's strongest attack. Even a martial honor would feel a great pressure when facing the 9 stone locks. At this time, Yi Fei would be lucky to survive. How could he possibly have the time to cultivate the 7 killing fists to perfection? However, we really misjudged him. Who would have thought that Yi Fei's comprehension would not lose to those legendary demons, even though his talent is mediocre? It's useless no matter how good his comprehension is. If he doesn't raise the quality of his dantian to Earth Grade 5 or above, the chances of him breaking through to Martial King in the future are extremely slim. However, for those below Martial King, his combat strength is still very shocking. Look, he's going to lose. Many of the elders turned their gazes to the 55th arena. The red-robed elder rushed over with all his might, wanting to stop the fight. However, he was one step too late. Rumble. The 9 stone locks fell like a mountain, creating huge lightning and fire as they collided with the void. Shifeng's expression was cold as he launched his strongest attack. Yi Fei, why aren't you drawing your sword? Shifeng shouted one last time. He was giving Yi Fei one last chance. If Yi Fei did not draw his sword, his stone locks would definitely smash Yi Fei into a serious injury. Boom! Yi Fei did not reply. He was still immersed in the state of invincibility. The moment the stone locks fell, Yi Fei suddenly opened his eyes. I understand now. This is the real 7 killing fists, the 7 killing heavens and earth. Yi Fei punched out again. There was no afterimage of the fist. It was just an ordinary punch. It was real as he gently punched the sky. The entire sky suddenly seemed to collapse, and a huge hole appeared. Boundless scarlet light burst out from Yi Fei's body. It formed a beam of light surging with killing intent that soared into the clouds. The first stone lock instantly shattered. Then the second, third, fourth, fifth. Yi Fei's punch soared into the sky. It was filled with killing intent and battle intent. He actually shattered 5 of Shifeng's stone locks. If it weren't for Shifeng's quick reaction and his extreme speed of retrieving the remaining stone locks, with the might of Yi Fei's punch, he would definitely have been able to shatter all 9 stone locks. How was this possible? Shifeng's expression changed. It was filled with intense fear and shock. He could not accept the fact that Yifei actually managed to cultivate the 7 killing fists to perfection under pressure. This kid, what a terrifying perception. If no one accepts him as a disciple, then this old man wants him. The red-robed elder was so excited that his face was burning. He was too happy. Even after being in the sacred grounds for a few hundred years, he had never seen someone with such a monstrous perception like Yifei. As for Yifei's mediocre talent, it was not a problem at all. At most, he could use a martial king or martial saint's talent crystal to raise Yifei's Dantian quality. On this point, the red-robed elder and the devil emperor had the same thoughts. But who knew? When the red-robed elder realized that Yifei's Dantian quality was no longer Earth Grade 1, but Earth Grade 6, what kind of shocked expression would he have? But at the moment, everyone was stunned by Yifei's stunning performance, including the other Mountain River list experts on the other stages. All of them looked at Yifei with fear in their eyes. Yifei's soaring fists were still being released. The blood-colored light pillar brought Yifei to shatter Shifeng's 5 stone locks. Then, it brought Yifei even further into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever the fists passed, the void would collapse. This was the most terrifying aspect of the 7 killing fists. With one punch, everything would be destroyed. Even the heavens and earth would not be able to stop this killing intent. If no one stopped the invincible Yifei, Yifei's fist could possibly shatter the void and create the Sky Martial Continent. Chapter 281. Shifeng admits defeat. Looking at Yifei, who was filled with killing intent and was constantly shattering the void, the red-robed elder was both happy and fearful at the same time. One must know that the pressure of the void was extremely terrifying. Only those who had reached the Martial King realm could barely step into the void. Even martial saints were unable to stay in the void for long periods of time. On the other hand, Yifei's strength was only at the 9th layer martial ancestor realm, but he was able to shatter the rules of the heavens and earth with the perfection stage of the 7 deadly fists and enter the rift. There was only one outcome for him, which was to be instantly shattered by the boundless rift, leaving nothing behind. This was the terror of the void. The red-robed elder could not bear to see a disciple with unlimited potential die mysteriously in the midst of cultivation. Hence, he used a rare martial honorable realm mind consciousness attack to attack Yifei's mind. Boom! An invisible mental attack directly penetrated Yifei's body and entered his mind. The red-robed elder was very confident. Regardless of whether Yifei entered invincible Anata or had an epiphany, he could instantly suppress Yifei and wake Yifei up. However, the red-robed elder would never have imagined that Yifei still had the terrifying consciousness of the first holy master in his mind. It had completely fused with Yifei's spirit. As soon as the red-robed elder's spiritual consciousness entered, he was attacked by the sacred lord's spiritual consciousness. Bang! The red-robed elder felt like his head was about to explode. Not only was the spiritual he used to suppress Yifei completely destroyed, but the red-robed elder couldn't withstand the pressure and was forced to half-kneel in midair. It looked like he was submitting to Yifei. Everyone was shocked. Countless disciples and elders looked at the red-robed elder in disbelief. What were they seeing? The high and mighty elder of the Holy Land had failed to suppress Yifei and was instead suppressed by Yifei. However, the red-robed elder's actions had a certain effect. He had successfully awakened Yifei from the special state of invincible Anata. Then, Yifei saw the red-robed elder half-kneeling in midair and Shifeng, who was staring at him in fear. Yifei felt very strange. "Elder, what are you doing? Also, Shifeng, weren't we fighting? Why is your stone lock broken?" Yifei completely couldn't remember that all of this was caused by him. He was the one who destroyed Shifeng's stone lock. The red-robed elder also suffered a great loss. He was unintentionally suppressed by Yifei. At this moment, his mind was in a daze. I remember that I was practicing the 7-kill fist. Why can't I remember anything? Yifei scratched his head in frustration. Hearing this, the red-robed elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He looked at Yifei strangely and asked, Yifei, do you remember what state you were in? I don't remember. Yifei shook his head. He really didn't have any recollection of it. Then why is your mental consciousness so strong? The red-robed elder did not give up and continued to ask. He was a 10th-layer Martial Highness Realm expert, yet he was suppressed by a Martial Ancestor Realm disciple. If he did not find out the truth, the red-robed elder would die of anger. Yifei Inata suddenly realized that he had caused trouble. However, he didn't dare to hide the truth from the higher-ups of the Holy Land. Of course, there was nothing to hide. When I was comprehending the Sword Steel, Sword Maniac Elder thanked me for my help and gave me the mental consciousness of the first Holy Master. Yifei Inata said sincerely. What? Junior Brother Sword Maniac Elder gave you the mental consciousness of the first Holy Master? Sigh, I should have known. How can there be a normal person on the Sword Peak? I didn't fall for nothing. The red-robed elder seemed to be disheartened. When he knew that Sword Maniac Elder was so generous to give Yifei the mental consciousness of the first Holy Master, he knew that it was impossible for him to accept Yifei as his disciple. After all, the Sword Peak had a special status in the Holy Land. There's nothing else. You can continue with the competition. The red-robed elder flew back gloomily. Yifei Inata Elder didn't know that his actions had shocked the disciples and elders present. Seeing that the red-robed elder had left, Yifei Inata Elder didn't have time to think. He suddenly slapped his head and shouted, "Oh no, I think I'm still in the competition. I haven't been disqualified yet." Yifei's words made all the elders and disciples present speechless. You know that you're in the competition. It's fine that you're cultivating in the middle of a battle, but you're so bold that you even suppressed the red-robed elder. Especially when they found out that Yifei Elder had obtained the mental consciousness of the first Holy Master. Many disciples and elders were envious. Huangshu's eyes were about to spit fire with jealousy. Mazai was also shocked and afraid. He began to worry inwardly. Damn it, this Yifei is actually so strong. Damn the Ouyang clan. You didn't even investigate properly before asking me to deal with him. If he doesn't come to deal with me now, I'll be burning incense. Obviously, Yifei's punch was so powerful that it almost pierced through the void. Even Mazai was afraid of it. Gong Sun Long, who had sneak attacked Yifei before, was so scared that he was trembling as he walked. Gong Sun Long had already decided that after this competition, he would immediately go into seclusion and not appear in front of Yifei for 3 to 5 years. He didn't want Yifei to hold a grudge against him. In the crowd, Guman's eyes were wide open. He felt very sullen and helpless as he watched Yifei slowly descend. His heart couldn't help but tremble. At the beginning, Guman still had the mentality of wanting to avenge his previous humiliation and fight Yifei again. But now, after seeing Yifei's terrifying 7-kill fist that could even shatter the void, Guman immediately decided that he shouldn't provoke a freak like Yifei in the future. Shifeng, I'm sorry about just now. When I was training, I was slightly distracted. Shall we continue? Yifei once again landed on the stage. His body was once again filled with an intense battle intent. Feeling Yifei's battle intent and seeing the 5 stone locks that were smashed by Yifei, Shifeng's face couldn't help but twitch. Finally, his face turned red and he helplessly lowered his head towards Yifei. Yifei, you're a freak. I admit defeat. With that, Shifeng turned and dragged the remaining 4 stone locks away. Walking down the stage, his back view was filled with sadness. Shifeng was really hit by Yifei. Heavens, Shifeng actually took the initiative to admit defeat. In the previous Mountain River list competition, when he faced the second-ranked 10th Prince, he didn't even admit defeat. Instead, he fainted from exhaustion. This can't be helped. Senior Brother Yi is too freakish. Not to mention his freakish physical defense. That fist of his almost pierced through the void. I reckon that other than the top 4 intersect experts, No one else would dare to fight with Senior Brother Yi. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's said that Senior Brother Yi comprehended sword intent. But just now, he was using fist techniques. Hiss, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.